Most Harry Potter fans have never noticed the hidden message spelled out by the chapter titles in Prisoner of Azkaban. Tonight, while you drift off to sleep, I'll reveal dozens of secrets like this one that J.K. Rowling buried so deep, even obsessive fans missed them completely. Most people recognize John Williams' iconic Hedwig's theme within the first 3 notes. That soaring, magical melody became the heartbeat of Harry Potter's world, instantly transporting fans back to their first glimpse of Hogwarts. But here's something you might have missed. That same beloved theme keeps appearing in places where Harry Potter isn't even the main character. The Fantastic Beasts movies are supposed to be their own thing, right? New characters, different time period, fresh storylines. Yet James Newton Howard, who composed the music for The Crimes of Grindelwald, couldn't resist weaving Hedwig's theme throughout the film like a musical Easter egg hunt. The weird part is how perfectly it works, even when Newt Scamander is stumbling around Paris chasing magical creatures that have nothing to do with a certain boy wizard. Listen carefully during the most important magical moments in Fantastic Beasts. When Grindelwald reveals his true power, when ancient magic awakens, when the wizarding world hangs in the balance, there it is. Sometimes it's disguised, slowed down, or played in a minor key, but that distinctive melodic line keeps surfacing. It's like the composers are whispering, remember where all this magic started. The genius lies in how they hide it. Casual viewers might feel a strange sense of familiarity, without being able to pinpoint why certain scenes feel so emotionally charged. Meanwhile, devoted fans get goosebumps recognizing their favorite theme woven into completely different stories. It's musical nostalgia at its finest. Then there's the strategic placement. Howard doesn't just throw Hedwig's theme around randomly, he saves it for moments that matter. When Credence discovers his true identity, when Dumbledore faces impossible choices, when the stakes reach their highest point, the theme becomes a bridge connecting 2 different eras of wizarding cinema, suggesting that some magic transcends individual stories. But why use it at all? The Fantastic Beasts series needed to establish its own identity, while remaining part of the larger Harry Potter universe. Makes sense, right? Using Hedwig's theme creates instant emotional connection without relying on cheap cameos or heavy-handed references. The music does the work of linking these worlds together in a way that feels organic rather than forced. What's particularly clever is how the theme evolves in these new films. In the original Harry Potter movies, Hedwig's theme represented wonder, discovery, and the magic of childhood. Here, it takes on darker undertones, reflecting the more mature themes of war, betrayal, and moral ambiguity that define the Fantastic Beasts era. The same notes now carry different emotional weight. Let's not forget how this affects longtime fans experiencing these films. Hearing those familiar notes in a new context creates layers of meaning that newcomers simply can't access. It's like being part of an exclusive club where the password is a melody. The theme becomes a reward for loyalty, a musical high five for those who've been following this magical world for decades. The orchestration choices matter too. When Hedwig's theme appears in Fantastic Beasts, it's often played by different instruments or arranged in unexpected ways. Sometimes it's barely recognizable until the final few notes click into place, creating those aha moments that make fans feel incredibly smart for noticing. Well, there's also the practical side of this musical decision. Using established themes helps create cohesion across multiple films and decades of storytelling. It signals to audiences that despite different characters and time periods, they're still watching stories from the same magical universe. The music becomes a thread connecting past, present, and future wizarding adventures. And the weird part is how this theme manages to enhance scenes that should work perfectly fine on their own. A dramatic confrontation between Grindelwald and his enemies becomes more emotionally resonant when underscored by music that reminds us of Harry's journey. It's like the composers are saying, this moment matters not just for these characters, but for the entire wizarding world you love. The most obvious appearances happen during pivotal plot moments, those scenes where characters make choices that will echo through wizarding history. By using Hedwig's theme here, the films suggest these events are just as significant as Harry's own adventures. It elevates the stakes and reminds viewers that they're witnessing history unfold. But here's where things get really interesting. The way composers weave this theme throughout Fantastic Beasts isn't just about nostalgia or brand recognition. It's about creating musical DNA that connects these stories to something larger than themselves. The theme becomes proof that magic, wonder, and the fight between good and evil transcend any single character or time period. The most fascinating aspect might be how naturally it fits. Despite being written for Harry's story decades earlier, Hedwig's theme adapts seamlessly to Newt's adventures, Grindelwald's rise, and Dumbledore's past. It's as if John Williams accidentally created the perfect musical representation of magic itself. Speaking of Dumbledore's past, there's another connection between these films that goes far beyond music, one involving a very significant birth year that ties everything together in ways most viewers never realize. Here's something that'll blow your mind. While Newt Scamander is chasing magical creatures around 1926 New York, getting into all sorts of trouble with his escaped Niffler, and accidentally exposing magic to no-magers, there's a baby being born across the Atlantic in London. That baby? Tom Marvolo Riddle, the future Lord Voldemort. The timing isn't random. J.K. Rowling planned this connection years before the Fantastic Beasts movies even existed. Both events happen in the same year, creating this invisible thread between two completely different stories. Newt's having his grand adventure with Fantastic Beasts, while baby Tom is taking his first breath in a dingy London orphanage. Talk about perfect timing. But here's where it gets really interesting. The movie never mentions Tom Riddle's birth. Not once. There's no dramatic announcement or ominous music playing when 1926 flashes on screen. Most viewers walk out of the cinema completely unaware they just watched events happening at the exact same time as Voldemort's arrival into the world. Only the hardcore fans who know their Potter timeline spot this Easter egg. This isn't just a cute coincidence either. Both births set massive wheels in motion for the wizarding world. Newt's adventures in America kick off a chain of events that'll reshape magical society. Meanwhile, Tom's birth starts the countdown to the darkest period in wizarding history. Two babies, two destinies, 1 year that changes everything. The brilliance lies in how these parallel timelines work. Newt's dealing with the aftermath of World War I in the Muggle world, while magical communities are still reeling from their own conflicts. Enter baby Tom, who'll grow up during World War II and use that chaos to build his power base. The timing creates this perfect storm of historical events. Then there's the Grindelwald connection that makes this even more mind-bending. Grindelwald is Voldemort's predecessor as the most dangerous dark wizard alive. While Newt's fighting against Grindelwald's rise to power in the 1920s, Tom Riddle is literally growing up in the shadow of this conflict. By the time Tom becomes Voldemort, he's learned from Grindelwald's mistakes and becomes even more dangerous. The orphanage detail adds another layer most people miss. Tom grows up without love or family, which creates the monster he becomes. At the exact same time, Newt's showing incredible compassion for magical creatures that others fear or misunderstand. One man choosing love, another growing up without it. Same year, opposite paths. What's really clever is how the movies handle this connection. Fantastic Beasts could have easily thrown in a quick scene of baby Tom or mentioned his birth somehow. Instead, they trust fans to make the connection themselves. It's like a secret handshake between the filmmakers and the audience who really know their Potter lore. The mathematical precision is stunning when you think about it. Tom Riddle is born December 31st, 1926. Newt arrives in New York earlier that year. By the time Tom's taking his first breath, Newt's already changed the course of American wizarding history. Both events happen within months of each other, but their impacts will ripple through decades. This timeline synchronicity also explains why Dumbledore becomes so invested in both stories. He's dealing with Grindelwald during Newt's adventures, then later he's the one trying to stop Tom Riddle's transformation into Voldemort. Dumbledore lives through both threats, watching how one dark wizard's defeat sets the stage for an even more dangerous successor. The orphanage setting becomes even more significant when you realize what's happening globally. The wizarding world is in chaos, dark wizards are rising to power, and in the middle of all this turmoil, a baby with unprecedented magical ability is born into complete neglect. It's like the universe conspired to create the perfect conditions for a future Dark Lord. What makes this Easter egg so satisfying is how it rewards longtime fans without alienating newcomers. Casual viewers enjoy Fantastic Beasts as a fun adventure about magical creatures. Meanwhile, Potter veterans are sitting in theaters realizing they're watching the prequel to Voldemort's origin story without anyone explicitly saying so. The beauty is in the restraint. No dramatic zoom-ins on calendars. No ominous voiceovers mentioning significant births. Just two stories unfolding simultaneously, connected by a timeline only the most dedicated fans will recognize. It's filmmaking that respects its audience's intelligence. This connection also sets up future possibilities for the Fantastic Beasts series. Will we eventually see young Tom Riddle? Will Newt's actions in the 1920s directly influence the wizarding world that Tom grows up in? The timeline creates endless potential for crossovers and connections. But there's something else lurking beneath this timeline coincidence that connects even deeper to the Potter mythology. The way certain magical forces seem to recognize bloodlines and destinies that span generations. Speaking of bloodlines and family connections, there's another Easter egg that links these movies to a tragedy that shaped one of the most important wizarding families in history. Looking at the dark magic swirling around Credence Barebone in the first Fantastic Beasts movie brings up an uncomfortable truth. That writhing, destructive force eating him alive. Fans who paid attention during the Harry Potter series have seen this exact nightmare before. The Obscurus isn't some brand new magical concept dreamed up for the prequel series. It's the missing piece of one of the most heartbreaking puzzles from the original story. Ariana Dumbledore suffered the same fate decades earlier. 3 Muggle boys attacked her when she was just 6 years old, terrorizing her after witnessing her magic. The trauma forced her to suppress her magical abilities completely. But here's what makes this connection so brilliant. Magic doesn't just disappear when you try to bottle it up. It festers. It grows angry, and eventually it explodes. The books describe Ariana's condition in haunting detail. She couldn't control her magic anymore. It would burst out of her in violent, unpredictable episodes. Her mother kept her hidden away, and the family lived in constant fear of what might happen next. Sound familiar? That's because Ariana wasn't just mentally unstable from trauma. She was an obscurial, though the term didn't exist yet in the stories we knew. Grindelwald's knowledge about obscurials suddenly makes perfect sense when you connect these dots. He didn't just randomly research this rare magical phenomenon for academic curiosity. He lived through it. He watched the girl he befriended, his lover's sister, slowly consumed by this dark magic. The summer he spent with the Dumbledore family gave him front row seats to witness what an Obscurus could do. And the weird part is how Grindelwald tries to weaponize this knowledge. In Fantastic Beasts, he's actively seeking out Obscurials like Credence because he understands their destructive potential better than anyone else alive. He's not just some random dark wizard collecting magical creatures. He's someone who watched helpless as this exact force tore apart the family of the person he cared about most. Then there's the way Ariana died. The books tell us she was killed during a 3-way duel between Albus Aberforth and Grindelwald, but they never specify exactly how. Most readers assumed she got caught in the crossfire of regular spells. Well, that's not the whole story. Her Obscurus likely erupted during the chaos, and in her confused magical rage, she became as dangerous as any of the wizards fighting around her. Albus Dumbledore carries this guilt for the rest of his life, but not just because his sister died during their fight. He blames himself because he failed to understand what was really happening to her. He was supposed to be the brilliant one, the magical prodigy, yet he couldn't save his own sister from a condition that was slowly eating her alive. Makes sense why he's so immediately interested when he hears about Credence, right? Let's not forget how this revelation changes everything we thought we knew about Dumbledore's relationship with Grindelwald. Their shared trauma runs deeper than teenage romance or philosophical disagreements about wizard secrecy. They both failed Ariana. They both watched her suffer, and they both have to live with the knowledge that their grand plans and heated arguments created the environment where her Obscurus finally consumed her. But here's where it gets really twisted. Grindelwald learned from Ariana's case that Obscurials are incredibly powerful weapons, while Dumbledore learned they're victims who need protection. Same experience, completely opposite conclusions. One sees opportunity, the other sees responsibility. This fundamental difference in how they processed their shared trauma explains why their paths diverged so dramatically. The movie doesn't spell any of this out directly. You have to piece it together from throwaway lines, meaningful glances, and your knowledge of the original series. When Grindelwald talks about the greater good in Fantastic Beasts, he's using the same phrase he used to convince young Albus that their plans were worth any sacrifice, including, apparently, the sacrifice of damaged magical children like Ariana and Credence. Even more chilling is realizing that Grindelwald probably knew what was wrong with Ariana all along. He had access to more magical knowledge than the isolated Dumbledore family. He could have helped her, could have found ways to safely channel her suppressed magic. Instead, he filed away the information for future use. That's not just callous, that's sociopathic. The genius of connecting Obscurials to Ariana's story lies in how it makes both narratives stronger. Suddenly, Credence isn't just some random victim we're supposed to care about. He's walking the same tragic path as Dumbledore's sister, and our beloved headmaster is determined not to fail again. The stakes feel personal because they are personal. This connection also explains why Dumbledore seems so confident about handling dangerous magical situations throughout the Harry Potter series. He's already lived through the worst-case scenario. Wait, something seemed off in Prisoner of Azkaban. Fred and George Weasley are walking through Hogwarts, using their beloved Marauder's map to avoid Filch and his endless detentions. The magical parchment shows every person in the castle as a moving dot with their name floating above. Students hurry to class. Teachers patrol the corridors. Everything looks normal until you spot it. There's a name that doesn't belong. Newt Scamander. The dot appears for maybe 3 seconds before disappearing completely. Most viewers miss it entirely because the camera moves quickly across the map's surface. But eagle-eyed fans caught this impossible detail. Newt Scamander, the famous magizoologist from Fantastic Beasts, somehow appears at Hogwarts decades before his own movies take place. This creates a fascinating puzzle. The Marauder's map never lies. It shows everyone within Hogwarts grounds, no matter where they're hiding or what magical disguises they're wearing. The map even revealed Peter Pettigrew when he was disguised as Scabbers the Rat for 12 years. So if Newt's name appears, he's definitely there. But why would Newt be at Hogwarts in 1993? He's not a teacher, he's not a student. The guy would be around 96 years old at this point, assuming he survived all his dangerous creature encounters. Yet there he is, wandering the castle like he owns the place. Some fans developed interesting theories about this cameo. The most popular explanation involves Dumbledore. These two have a complicated history from the Fantastic Beasts era, where Dumbledore repeatedly asks Newt for help with dangerous magical situations. Maybe old habits die hard. Perhaps Dumbledore called his former student back to Hogwarts for advice about something creature-related. Think about the timing. Prisoner of Azkaban deals with Dementors surrounding the school. These soul-sucking creatures terrify everyone, including the teachers. Who better to consult about dangerous magical beings than the world's leading expert? Newt literally wrote the book on Fantastic Beasts. His textbook sits in every Hogwarts student's bag. Then there's the Buckbeak situation. Hagrid's beloved Hippogriff faces execution after attacking Draco Malfoy. The Ministry of Magic wants to handle this swiftly and brutally. But Newt has spent his entire career protecting misunderstood creatures from exactly this kind of persecution. He knows how bureaucrats think and might offer strategies for saving Buckbeak's life. Other fans suggest a darker possibility. What if Newt wasn't there voluntarily? The Department for Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures might have dragged him to Hogwarts as an expert witness. They could be building their case against Buckbeak by gathering testimony from respected authorities. This would explain his brief appearance and quick departure. But here's where things get really weird. Some eagle-eyed viewers claim they spotted Newt's name in other scenes too, though these sightings remain unconfirmed. The map shows different areas of Hogwarts throughout the movie, and dedicated fans have freeze-framed every single appearance. They're hunting for more evidence of Newt's mysterious visit. The filmmakers never officially explained this Easter egg. Was it intentional foreshadowing for the Fantastic Beasts series that wouldn't start for another 13 years? That seems unlikely since those movies weren't even concepts yet. More probably, someone in the graphics department decided to have fun with the Marauder's map details. Creating all those moving names required serious attention to detail. The graphics team had to fill the map with dozens of realistic-sounding names that moved naturally through Hogwarts corridors. They probably included references to friends, family members, or favorite characters from the broader Harry Potter universe. Newt's appearance might have started as an inside joke that accidentally became canon. What makes this even more intriguing is how the Marauder's map actually works. The Weasley twins created this magical document during their school years, but they based it on ancient Hogwarts magic. The castle itself tracks everyone who enters its grounds. This means Newt's appearance isn't just a graphics error. According to the map's logic, he was genuinely there. The beauty of this Easter egg lies in its subtlety. Unlike other franchise connections that hit you over the head with obviousness, Newt's cameo rewards only the most observant fans. You have to be watching carefully, know who Newt Scamander is, and be quick enough to spot his name before it disappears. It's like finding a rare creature in the wild. Blink and you'll miss it completely. This tiny detail demonstrates how interconnected the wizarding world really is. Characters don't exist in isolation. They have ongoing lives, relationships, and reasons to travel between different magical locations. Newt's brief appearance suggests that important figures in this world continue their work behind the scenes, even when we're not watching their stories unfold. Of course, there's still the possibility that this was simply a mistake that fans have elevated into something more meaningful. But isn't that exactly what makes Easter eggs so delightful? They transform ordinary moments into mysteries worth solving. Speaking of mysteries, there's another magical object that connects these films in ways you might not expect. Harry Potter fans know all about magical communication devices. Floo powder, howlers, Patronus messages. The wizarding world has plenty of ways to stay in touch. But there's one particular method that connects two different eras of magic in a way most viewers completely miss. We're talking about two-way mirrors, and their appearance spans decades of wizarding history. Remember that heartbreaking scene in Deathly Hallows when Harry pulls out a broken mirror shard? He's desperately trying to reach Sirius, not knowing his godfather is already dead. The mirror shows Aberforth Dumbledore's eye instead, leading to one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. That weathered, cracked mirror tells a story of loss and regret. But here's what's fascinating. That same magical technology appears again, and it's hiding in plain sight. Fast forward to The Secrets of Dumbledore, the third Fantastic Beasts movie. Aberforth uses an identical two-way mirror to communicate with Credence, who's been revealed as Aurelius Dumbledore. The mirrors look almost exactly the same. Same aged glass, same chipped edges, same mystical glow when activated. This isn't coincidence, it's deliberate continuity that spans nearly a century of wizarding history. Think about what this actually means. These mirrors have been around since at least the 1930s, possibly longer. The technology hasn't changed. No magical upgrades, no wizard smartphones, no enchanted improvements, just the same reliable spell work that's been connecting families for generations. There's something beautifully traditional about this. While Muggles went from telegrams to smartphones, wizards stuck with what worked. The really clever part, both mirrors serve the same emotional purpose. They're tools for reaching family when everything else has fallen apart. Harry uses his to desperately seek guidance from a father figure he's lost. Aberforth uses his to maintain connection with a nephew he's trying to protect. Same magic, same heartache, decades apart. But wait, there's more to this mirror business than meets the eye. The original two-way mirrors belonged to James Potter and Sirius Black during their Hogwarts days. James gave one to Sirius so they could talk during detentions. After James died, Sirius tried to give his mirror to Harry, but Harry never used it. The irony is devastating. Harry had a way to safely contact Sirius the entire time, but teenage stubbornness and guilt kept him from ever trying it. Now here's where things get really interesting. Aberforth somehow obtained one of these mirrors after Sirius's death. How? The movies never explain this, but it creates a beautiful through line. The same magical objects that could have saved Sirius and Harry years of pain are now being used by another Dumbledore to prevent similar tragedy. It's like the mirrors themselves learned from past mistakes. The visual details are what make this Easter egg truly special. Both mirrors have that distinctive cloudy, aged appearance. They don't sparkle like new magic. They look worn, used, loved. The prop designers clearly wanted these to feel like heirloom pieces, passed down through wizarding families like precious antiques. The scratches and chips tell stories of their own. Let's not forget the emotional weight these mirrors carry. Every time they appear on screen, someone's either desperate, lonely, or trying to protect someone they love. They're not casual communication devices. They're lifelines thrown across impossible distances. The magic isn't just in the spell, it's in the human need to connect when everything else is falling apart. The continuity between the Harry Potter films and Fantastic Beasts isn't always smooth, but these mirrors represent perfect world building. They show that some magical innovations are timeless. Why fix what isn't broken? These mirrors have been connecting wizards for generations, and they'll probably be doing it for generations more. What makes this detail even more impressive is how easy it would be to miss. The mirrors appear briefly in both film series. Casual viewers might not even notice they're the same type of magical object. Only fans who pay attention to props and visual details will catch the connection. It's the kind of Easter egg that rewards careful observation without punishing those who miss it. The mirrors also highlight something important about the wizarding world's relationship with technology. While Muggles constantly upgrade their communication methods, wizards perfect spells once and stick with them. These mirrors probably work exactly the same way they did hundreds of years ago. There's something comforting about that consistency. And here's the beautiful thing about this particular Easter egg. It connects the most heartbreaking moments of both film series. Harry's desperate attempts to reach Sirius, Aberforth's careful protection of Credence. The mirrors bridge not just physical distances, but emotional ones too. They're symbols of love persisting across time, space, and even death itself. But mirrors aren't the only objects that carry hidden meanings across these films. Sometimes the smallest details hide the biggest secrets, and Dumbledore's most personal possessions tell stories that span both generations and galaxies. Alright, let's talk about something most Harry Potter fans completely missed. Dumbledore owns a very special pocket watch, and it's way cooler than any Apple Watch could ever be. This isn't your regular timepiece that tells you when you're late for work. Nope. This magical marvel shows the positions of planets instead of boring old numbers. The books mention this astronomical wonder several times, but the movies, they barely give it any screen time. Makes sense, right? There's only so much detail you can cram into a 2-hour film without making it feel like an astronomy lecture. But here's where things get interesting for eagle-eyed fans. In Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, this legendary timepiece finally gets its moment to shine, and the weird part is, most people watching probably had no clue what they were looking at. Dumbledore pulls out this intricate pocket watch, and instead of checking if he's running late for his next magical appointment, he uses it for something far more extraordinary. The watch becomes his tracking device, but not in some high-tech GPS kind of way. This is pure wizarding ingenuity at work. Dumbledore uses the planetary positions shown on his watch to locate Credence, which is honestly brilliant when you think about it. Ancient magic meets practical problem solving. Who needs satellites when you've got Saturn's position to guide you? Then there's the visual design itself. The filmmakers didn't just throw together some random steampunk-looking gadget and call it a day. They actually crafted something that matches the book descriptions while serving the plot. The watch face shows miniature celestial bodies moving in their orbits, creating this mesmerizing dance of cosmic mechanics right there in Dumbledore's palm. What makes this detail even more satisfying is how it connects decades of storytelling. Book readers have been imagining this watch since the very first Harry Potter novel. They've pictured it in their minds countless times, wondering what it might look like in action. Finally seeing it brought to life on the big screen feels like getting an answer to a question you've been carrying around for years. But let's not forget the deeper implications here. This isn't just a cool magical gadget for the sake of having cool magical gadgets. The watch represents something fundamental about Dumbledore's character. He's always been someone who sees the bigger picture, who understands how seemingly unrelated things connect. Having a timepiece that shows planetary movements instead of minutes and seconds. That's perfectly on brand for a wizard who thinks in terms of destiny and cosmic significance. The timing of this reveal is pretty clever too. By the third Fantastic Beasts movie, audiences have seen plenty of magical objects doing extraordinary things. They're primed to accept that a pocket watch might do more than tell time. The filmmakers didn't need to spend precious screen time explaining how it works or why Dumbledore has it. They could just show it in action and trust that fans would fill in the blanks. And the weird part is how this small detail actually enhances our understanding of young Dumbledore. We're seeing him use advanced magical tools with casual expertise, reinforcing just how brilliant he really is. This isn't some parlor trick or flashy spell. This is sophisticated magic that requires deep understanding of both astronomy and enchantment. The watch also serves as a beautiful example of how the wizarding world approaches technology differently than Muggles do. While we're busy inventing GPS systems and smartphone apps, wizards are enchanting pocket watches to read the movements of celestial bodies. Both approaches solve the same basic problem of finding someone, but the magical solution feels so much more elegant and mysterious. For book fans specifically, seeing this watch finally appear on screen creates this wonderful moment of recognition. It's like spotting an old friend in an unexpected place. You might not have been consciously waiting for it to show up, but when it does, there's this immediate sense of satisfaction. The filmmakers remembered. They cared about this seemingly minor detail enough to include it. What really impresses me is how seamlessly they integrated it into the story. The watch doesn't feel like fan service or a random Easter egg thrown in to make book readers happy. It serves a genuine purpose in helping Dumbledore track down Credence, which drives the plot forward. That's smart filmmaking right there. The craftsmanship visible in the prop itself deserves recognition too. Someone in the art department spent serious time designing something that would look appropriately magical while remaining believable within the established wizarding world. The result is a timepiece that feels both ancient and sophisticated, perfectly matching Dumbledore's character. This attention to detail showcases why these hidden connections matter so much to fans. They prove that the people making these movies understand and respect the source material. When filmmakers take time to include something like Dumbledore's planetary pocket watch, They're showing genuine care for the world J.K. Rowling created. Speaking of hidden details that span multiple films, wait until you discover how a simple pastry charm connects two completely different magical disasters across the entire franchise. The wizarding world has some pretty intense security systems. We're not talking about your typical burglar alarm here. Instead, wizards protect their most valuable treasures with spells that turn touching the wrong thing into an absolute nightmare. And if you've been paying attention to both the Harry Potter films and Fantastic Beasts, you'll notice the same magical protection keeps showing up in the most chaotic ways possible. Remember that scene in the first Fantastic Beasts movie? Jacob Kowalski, the lovable no-maj baker, encounters a case full of pastries that looks completely innocent. Of course, being a baker, he can't resist touching them. Bad move. The moment his fingers make contact, those pastries start multiplying like crazy. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and before anyone can blink, there's an avalanche of magical baked goods flooding the room. It's funny, sure, but it's also showing us something important about wizarding security. Fast forward to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Harry, Ron and Hermione break into Bellatrix Lestrange's vault at Gringotts Bank. They're searching for Hufflepuff's cup, one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. The vault is packed with golden treasures, and everything looks tempting. But here's the catch. Every single item in that vault has been cursed with the same spell Jacob encountered in New York decades earlier. The curse is called the Geminio Curse, though the movies never actually name it. Touch something, and it multiplies. Keep touching, and those copies keep multiplying. What starts as one goblet becomes hundreds, then thousands. The trio learns this the hard way. When they accidentally brush against some treasure, suddenly they're drowning in burning hot duplicates of cups, coins and jewelry. The molten gold pours over them like a waterfall of pain. Both scenes use the exact same magical principle, but the tone couldn't be more different. In Fantastic Beasts, it's played for laughs. Jacob gets buried in pastries, and while it's chaotic, nobody's in real danger. The worst thing that happens is he probably ruins his suit. In Harry Potter, the same spell becomes a deadly trap. The duplicated treasure burns everything it touches, and our heroes barely escape with their lives. This isn't an accident. The filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing when they included this detail. It's a brilliant way to show how the same magic can be harmless or lethal depending on how it's used. A baker's protective charm becomes a bank's security system. Pastries become weapons. What makes this Easter egg even more clever is how it connects the two time periods. The 1920s magical world of Newt Scamander uses the same spells as the 1990s world of Harry Potter. This consistency helps both film series feel like they exist in the same universe, even though they're set 70 years apart. The visual similarities are striking too. In both scenes, the camera shows the moment of contact, then pulls back to reveal the growing chaos. The sound design matches as well, the distinctive magical chiming noise as objects multiply beyond control. Even the way the characters react is similar. They all start with curiosity, then confusion, then pure panic as they realize what's happening. But there's another layer to this connection. Both scenes happen during moments when the characters are essentially trespassing. Jacob isn't supposed to be in the magical world at all, and he definitely shouldn't be touching things he doesn't understand. Harry, Ron and Hermione are literally robbing a bank vault. The Geminio Curse punishes curiosity and greed, whether it's innocent or intentional. The spell also reveals something about wizarding psychology. They don't just lock things away or hide them, they create traps that exploit basic human nature, the urge to touch, to take, to possess. It's almost cruel when you think about it. They're betting that people won't be able to resist temptation, and they're usually right. Then there's the practical magic aspect. The Geminio Curse is actually brilliant from a security standpoint. Traditional locks can be picked or broken, magical barriers can be dispelled by skilled wizards. But a curse that creates more problems, the more you struggle against it. That's nearly impossible to overcome through force. The only solution is knowing not to touch anything in the first place. This kind of detailed world building is what separates the Harry Potter universe from other fantasy series. The magic has rules, consequences and consistency across decades of storytelling. Whether you're watching Newt's adventures in 1920s New York or Harry's final battle in 1990s Britain, the magic works the same way. Of course, most viewers miss this connection entirely. The pastry scene happens early in Fantastic Beasts and feels like comic relief. The vault scene in Deathly Hallows is pure tension and terror, but once you notice the link, you can't unsee it. Speaking of things most people miss, There's another detail from the original Harry Potter films that connects directly to a character who appears throughout the series, hiding in plain sight on the Marauder's map itself. Most people watch movies for the big moments. The explosions, the romance, the dramatic speeches, but sometimes the tiniest details tell the biggest stories. And in the Harry Potter films, there's one background detail so small that millions of viewers have walked right past it without a second glance. We're talking about a trophy. Just sitting there in a display case during Philosopher's Stone, nothing flashy about it. No dramatic music playing, Harry doesn't even look at it directly. But if you pause the movie and squint at the background, you'll spot something that changes everything you thought you knew about Professor McGonagall. The trophy reads McGonagall, Quidditch Champion. Right there in black and white, confirming what book fans already suspected, but movie-only viewers never knew. McGonagall wasn't just some stern teacher who happened to know the rules of Quidditch. She was a champion, a real player who dominated the pitch decades before Harry Potter was even born. Makes sense, right? Think about how quickly she spotted Harry's talent during his very first flying lesson. Most teachers might have seen a kid catch a remembrall and thought, well, that was lucky. But McGonagall watched Harry dive 50 feet, pull up at the last second, and make a perfect catch, and immediately knew she was looking at seeker material. Her eye wasn't just trained from watching games from the stands, she'd been there. She'd felt the wind, made those same impossible catches, probably pulled off moves that made crowds gasp. The weird part is how the movies handle this revelation. They don't handle it at all. There's no scene where McGonagall mentions her playing days. No moment where she gives Harry advice based on her own experience. The trophy just sits there, waiting for eagle-eyed viewers to connect the dots. It's like the filmmakers planted a seed, and trusted fans to water it themselves. Then there's the question of why she stopped playing. Champions don't usually just walk away from the sport they dominated, but McGonagall chose teaching over the professional Quidditch circuit. Maybe she realized her true calling was shaping young minds instead of chasing golden spheres around a pitch. Or maybe she saw too many talented players get injured and decided the classroom was safer than the air. Let's not forget how this detail transforms every Quidditch scene she's in. When she's explaining the rules to first years, she's not just reciting from a textbook. When she's watching Harry play, she's probably remembering her own glory days. When she argues with Snape about fair play, she's speaking from experience about what the sport really means. But why hide this information in a background prop? The filmmakers could have given McGonagall a big speech about her playing days, could have shown flashbacks of young McGonagall soaring through the air in vintage Quidditch robes. Instead, they chose subtlety. They trusted that the most dedicated fans would spot the trophy and understand what it meant. And the trophy itself tells a story about Hogwarts. The school doesn't just teach Quidditch as an afterthought. They celebrate their champions, preserve their history, display their achievements for anyone curious enough to look. The trophy case isn't just decoration, it's a museum of magical sporting excellence, and McGonagall earned her place in it. Here's what gets really interesting though. McGonagall's playing experience explains so much about her character that the movies never explicitly address. Her competitive streak, her attention to detail, her ability to stay calm under pressure. These aren't just personality traits she developed as a teacher, they're skills she honed as an athlete. Champions don't get rattled easily, and McGonagall rarely gets rattled. The trophy also raises questions about Hogwarts house rivalries. Did McGonagall play for Gryffindor? Did she face off against Slytherin teams coached by young Snape's predecessors? Did she experience the same bitter house competition that drives students decades later? Her fierce loyalty to Gryffindor suddenly makes more sense when you realize she might have literally bled red and gold on the Quidditch pitch. What's brilliant about this Easter egg is how it rewards different types of fans differently. Casual viewers get to enjoy McGonagall as the strict but caring professor. Book readers might catch hints about her athletic past from Rowling's descriptions. But movie fans who pay attention to set decoration get this exclusive revelation that bridges both worlds. The set designers deserve credit for this level of detail. They could have filled the trophy case with generic awards and fake names. Instead, they crafted specific tributes to character backstories that most people would never notice. That's the mark of creators who truly love the world they're building. This tiny trophy proves that sometimes the most important stories are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to care enough to look closer. Speaking of hidden stories, there's another detail that most fans miss completely, buried in the credits where barely anyone bothers to read. Most people bolt from the cinema the second the credits roll. You're missing gold if you do that with Goblet of Fire. Buried in that endless scroll of names and thank yous sits one of the most ridiculous Easter eggs in the entire franchise. Right there in black and white, it says no dragons were harmed in the making of this movie. Wait, what? Dragons harmed? These aren't real creatures we're talking about. Every single dragon in Goblet of Fire was created with computer graphics. The Hungarian horntail that nearly roasts Harry alive. Pure CGI. That terrifying common Welsh green. Digital wizardry. Not a single scaly beast existed anywhere near the film set, yet the producers felt the need to reassure audiences about their safety. This joke plays on the standard disclaimer you see in movies with animals. No animals were harmed in the making of this film. It's been a requirement since the 1940s after some genuinely horrific incidents in early Hollywood. The American Humane Association monitors film sets to make sure real animals stay safe during production, but dragons, well, that's where things get wonderfully absurd. The filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing here. They took something completely serious and twisted it into pure magical nonsense. It's the kind of humor that fits perfectly in the wizarding world, where the impossible becomes everyday and the ridiculous feels perfectly normal. Makes sense, right? In a universe where chocolate frogs actually hop around and moving photos wave back at you, why wouldn't movie studios worry about the welfare of mythical creatures? But here's the brilliant part. Most viewers completely miss this gem. Credits are boring. People want to leave, grab dinner, beat the parking lot rush. The theater empties out, while this perfect little joke sits there waiting for the few dedicated fans who stick around. It's like the filmmakers created a secret handshake with the most devoted Harry Potter enthusiasts. The timing of this disclaimer is particularly clever too. Goblet of Fire features more dangerous magical creatures than any previous film. We've got dragons breathing real fire, deadly merpeople in the Black Lake, and a maze full of creatures that could kill you 17 different ways. The Triwizard Tournament isn't exactly known for its safety record. Students have died in previous competitions, and Harry nearly joins that list multiple times. Then there's the meta-humor of it all. Here's a movie about a world where dragons are absolutely real and regularly used in sporting events. Yet the real-world film studio feels compelled to clarify that no computer-generated dragons were deleted during production. The absurdity layers on itself beautifully. What makes this even funnier is how seriously the wizarding world takes dragon welfare in the books. Charlie Weasley works with dragons in Romania as a proper career. The Ministry of Magic has entire departments dedicated to regulating magical creatures. Dragon handlers wear protective gear and follow strict safety protocols. The fictional world cares more about dragon safety than the real world needs to, yet here we are with an official disclaimer anyway. This isn't the only credits joke in the Potter universe either, but it might be the most perfectly executed. It captures that distinctly British sense of humour that runs through the entire series. Dry, understated, and completely ridiculous when you really think about it. The kind of joke that makes you wonder if the person writing the credits was having way too much fun with their job. The visual effects team deserves credit here too. Those dragons look terrifyingly real throughout the film. The Hungarian horntail's movements, the way its wings cast shadows, the heat distortion from its breath, everything screams authenticity. Creating creatures so convincing that you might actually worry about their well-being takes serious skill. Maybe the disclaimer is also a weird flex about how realistic their work looks. And the weird part is, this joke works on multiple levels. Kids who spot it think it's silly and fun. Adults appreciate the wordplay and the reference to real film industry practices. Film buffs get the technical humor about CGI creatures needing protection disclaimers. Everyone wins, assuming they actually stick around long enough to read the credits. The dedication to this single throwaway gag shows how much care went into every aspect of these films. Someone took time to craft this joke, get it approved, and slip it into the credits where only the most patient fans would find it. That's commitment to entertaining your audience, even in the most overlooked parts of the movie. But speaking of hidden details that require patience to spot, there's another Easter egg that involves actual numbers and codes rather than fictional creature welfare. This one's been hiding in plain sight since Order of the Phoenix, and it's all about how wizards access their most important government building. When Harry first enters the Ministry of Magic in Order of the Phoenix, he's got bigger things on his mind than phone codes. Dark wizards, prophecies, rescuing Sirius, typical Tuesday stuff for the boy who lived. But the filmmakers snuck in something brilliant that most viewers walk right past. The visitor's entrance requires a specific code 62442. Harry punches it in without hesitation, like he's texting his best friend. Nothing unusual there, right? Well, grab your old flip phone and take a look at the keypad. Those numbers spell out MAGIC. The code literally spells magic using the traditional phone keypad system, where each number corresponds to letters. 6 gets you M, 2 gives you A, 4 hits G, another 4 for I, and 2 again for C. It's hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to connect the dots. This isn't some happy accident either. The Ministry of Magic uses this code every single time someone enters through the visitor's entrance. Arthur Weasley knows it. Harry learns it. Every witch and wizard who's ever had business at the Ministry has punched in MAGIC to get inside. The irony: they're using Muggle technology to access the heart of the wizarding government. Then there's the beautiful contradiction of it all. The Ministry spends half its time trying to hide magic from Muggles, yet they're using a Muggle telephone booth as their secret entrance. They've got to dial a number on a Muggle device to access their magical headquarters. Someone in the Department of Mysteries definitely has a sense of humor. The detail gets even better when you realize how many people miss it entirely. Thousands of viewers have watched Harry dial that code, but only the ones familiar with old phone keypads catch the Easter egg. It's generational knowledge now. Younger viewers who grew up with smartphones might not even know that phone keypads had letters. But wait, it gets weirder. The filmmakers could have chosen any random sequence of numbers. They could have made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and called it a day. Instead, they took the time to create a code that actually makes sense within the wizarding world. That's the kind of attention to detail that separates great films from good ones. Let's not forget that this code appears multiple times throughout the series, not just in Harry's first visit. Every Ministry scene that shows the visitor's entrance uses the same combination. It's consistent world building that rewards fans who pay attention to the small stuff. The genius lies in the simplicity. Anyone can dial 62442, but only people who think about it realize what they're spelling. It's like a secret handshake between the filmmakers and the audience. You either get it or you don't, and getting it feels like discovering buried treasure. This Easter egg also reflects something deeper about the Harry Potter universe. Magic and the mundane world aren't completely separate. They're intertwined in unexpected ways. The Ministry uses telephone booths, wizards wear regular clothes, and magical codes hide inside Muggle systems. The boundary between worlds is thinner than most people think. The phone booth itself becomes even more magical when you understand the code. It's not just a random piece of Muggle technology that wizards decided to use. It's been specifically chosen and enchanted to recognize the word magic spelled out in numbers. That transforms it from a borrowed object into something truly magical. What makes this detail particularly clever is how it rewards different types of fans. Movie-only fans might notice that Harry always dials the same number. Book fans know the Ministry has multiple entrances and security measures. But tech-savvy fans who remember phone keypads get the full picture. They're the ones who realize what the numbers actually spell. The code also adds a layer of believability to the wizarding world. Real organizations use memorable codes and passwords. Banks use PIN numbers, offices have key codes, and security systems rely on specific sequences. Having the Ministry use a code that spells magic makes perfect sense for a magical government organization. And the weird part is how this connects to real-world marketing too. Companies have been using phone number mnemonics for decades. 1-800, Flowers, 1-800, Mattress, that kind of thing. The Ministry is basically using the same strategy, just with their visitor entrance instead of a commercial phone line. The detail becomes even more impressive when you consider the coordination required. The props department had to make sure the phone booth keypad was clearly visible. The script had to specify the exact numbers. The actors had to dial them correctly. The editors had to make sure the sequence was clear enough for sharp-eyed viewers to catch. That's a lot of people working together to hide one small joke. This kind of layered storytelling makes re-watching the films even more fun. You're not just watching Harry's journey again, you're discovering new details that were there all along. But speaking of details that reward careful observation, there's another number that keeps showing up in Harry's story that carries its own magical significance. Harry Potter wears jersey number 7 during Quidditch matches. Seems like a random detail, right? Well, nothing in the wizarding world is ever truly random. 7 isn't just Harry's lucky number, it's the most magical number in the entire series, and the filmmakers made sure fans would notice this pattern everywhere. The number 7 appears so frequently throughout the Harry Potter universe that it almost feels like a secret code. There are 7 books in the series, 7 years at Hogwarts, 7 players on every Quidditch team, 7 Horcruxes that Voldemort creates to achieve immortality. The coincidence? There isn't one. Then there's the deeper magic behind this number. In the wizarding world, 7 is considered the most magically powerful number. Wizards come of age at 17, not 18 like Muggles. The Weasley family has 7 children. Even the Dursley house number is 4 Privet Drive. But Harry's bedroom, it's his 7th year there when everything changes. But here's where it gets really interesting. Harry's Quidditch jersey number wasn't chosen by accident. The costume designers could have picked any number, but they deliberately chose 7 to reinforce the magical significance that runs through every aspect of his story. Makes sense, right? The boy who lived would naturally gravitate toward the most magical number. The pattern extends beyond just counting things. 7 ingredients go into the most complex potions. Fleur Delacour mentions that her grandmother was 1/7 Feeler, not 1/6 or 1/8, but specifically 1/7. The Room of Requirement requires a person to walk past it 7 times while concentrating on their need. These aren't random magical rules, they're all connected to the power of 7. Well, the movies take this obsession even further than the books. During Quidditch scenes, the camera often focuses on Harry's number 7 jersey during crucial moments. When he catches the golden snitch for the first time, his jersey number is clearly visible. When he's knocked unconscious by Dementors during the match against Hufflepuff, the number 7 flashes on screen just before he falls. And the weird part is how this connects to real-world mythology. 7 has been considered magical across cultures for thousands of years. 7 wonders of the ancient world. 7 days of creation. 7 deadly sins. 7 seas. The filmmakers tapped into something much older than just Harry Potter when they made this choice. Let's not forget how this number plays into Harry's identity as the Chosen One. The prophecy mentions that the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, and Voldemort creates 7 Horcruxes, making Harry the unintentional 7th piece of his soul. Harry doesn't just wear the number 7, he literally becomes part of a set of 7 magical objects. The Quidditch connection runs even deeper than his jersey number. 7 is the perfect number for a team sport in the magical world, because it creates natural magical balance. 3 chasers, 2 beaters, 1 keeper, 1 seeker. The positions themselves follow magical number patterns, but they all add up to 7 players working together. But why does this matter for moviegoers? Because every time Harry steps onto that Quidditch pitch wearing number 7, the filmmakers are reminding us that he's not just playing a game, he's fulfilling his magical destiny. The number becomes a visual cue that something important is about to happen. The costume department could have changed his number between movies. They could have given different players different numbers throughout the series. Instead, they kept Harry's 7 consistent across all the films where he plays Quidditch. This wasn't laziness. It was intentional world building through tiny details. Even the casting reflects this obsession with 7. The main characters in Harry's year, the ones who matter most to the story, form groups of 7. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Dean, Seamus, and initially Lavender in Gryffindor. The pattern repeats with Draco's group in Slytherin. 7 students per house per year. 7 years at school. 7 books to tell the story. The financial success of the series even reflects this magical number. The first movie was released in 2001, and the final movie came out exactly 10 years later. But there were 7 years between the first book and the final book's publication. 7 years of anticipation, 7 years of growing up with Harry. What makes this Easter egg particularly clever is how it rewards fans who pay attention to small details. Casual viewers see a Quidditch player wearing a jersey. Dedicated fans recognize a symbol of magical destiny woven throughout every aspect of the series. The number 7 on Harry's jersey connects to something even more surprising about how the movies handle magical symbols, and you'll never guess where else this pattern shows up. Most Harry Potter fans think they've seen everything once the credits roll. Wrong. Chamber of Secrets breaks the series tradition in the most unexpected way. It's the only film with a post-credits scene. Yes, you read that right. The only one. While Marvel was still figuring out how to make superhero movies work, Harry Potter quietly slipped in a bonus scene that 90% of moviegoers missed completely. The credits finish rolling, the theater lights come up, parents start gathering their kids, and boom, there's Gilderoy Lockhart sitting in what looks like a dreary hospital room. But here's where it gets interesting. Lockhart isn't just sitting there looking pretty. He's completely lost his memory thanks to Ron's broken wand backfiring his own spell. The irony, he's still getting fan mail. Someone hands him a letter from an adoring fan, and he signs it with the confused enthusiasm of a man who has no idea why people love him, but is happy to go along with it. The scene lasts maybe 30 seconds. Blink and you'll miss Kenneth Branagh's final moment as the fraudulent defense against the dark arts teacher. What makes this even more brilliant is how it perfectly captures Lockhart's character arc. The guy built his entire career on stealing other wizards' stories and wiping their memories. Now his own memory is gone. But the fame machine keeps churning. Then there's the deeper question this scene raises. Does Lockhart remember being a fraud? Probably not. Does he remember stealing those adventures? Definitely not. In his confused state, he might actually believe he deserves the attention. It's almost poetic justice, except he's too memory-addled to appreciate the irony. The weird part is how this scene never made it into most TV broadcasts or streaming versions. For years, fans debated whether it actually existed, or was just some elaborate internet hoax. Some claimed they saw it in theaters. Others insisted they were making it up. The scene became like its own urban legend within the fandom. What's even stranger is that Chris Columbus, the director, never made a big deal about it. No announcements. No marketing push. No stay for the surprise ending campaigns. The scene just existed for those patient enough to sit through several minutes of credits listing everyone from the lead actors down to the assistant dragon wranglers. This makes Chamber of Secrets unique in the entire 8-film series. Prisoner of Azkaban, nothing after the credits. Goblet of Fire, just music. Half-Blood Prince. The credits end and so does your evening. Every other film follows the traditional pattern, but Chamber of Secrets decided to experiment. The scene also serves as a perfect bookend to Lockhart's storyline. We first meet him as this preening celebrity wizard who can't actually do magic. He bumbles through the school year, accidentally unleashing pixies, botching memory charms, and generally making everything worse. By the end, he's lost in the Chamber of Secrets with his memory wiped clean. But wait, there's more to unpack here. The fan letter he's signing suggests that even with his memory gone, the wizarding world hasn't moved on. His books are presumably still bestsellers. His face is probably still on chocolate frog cards. Oh! The celebrity machine doesn't care if the celebrity remembers being one. The hospital room setting adds another layer. Lockhart isn't in Azkaban or some wizard prison. He's receiving medical care, which suggests the wizarding world treats magical memory loss as a medical condition, rather than a criminal punishment. Even though he was a fraud and a coward, he gets sympathy, rather than justice. What makes this scene even more special is how it rewards the most dedicated fans. You had to love the movie enough to sit through endless credits just to see 30 seconds of bonus content. No smartphones to distract you back in 2002. No social media notifications pulling your attention away. Just you, the credits, and the hope that something interesting might happen. The scene also highlights Kenneth Branagh's commitment to the character. He could have easily skipped filming this tiny bonus scene. Instead, he came back to give Lockhart one final moment of confused charm. The performance perfectly captures someone who's lost everything that made him who he was, but is still trying to be pleasant about it. Looking back, this post-credits scene was ahead of its time. Marvel wouldn't perfect the formula until Iron Man in 2008. The Harry Potter series was experimenting with bonus content when most filmmakers thought credits were just legal requirements. The scene raises one final question that connects directly to the broader wizarding world. If Lockhart's memory can be wiped so completely, what other characters might be walking around with missing pieces of their past? But that's a mystery that leads us into even deeper magic, where the very foundations of wizard society hide secrets that make Lockhart's fraudulent career look like child's play. Here's something most fans completely missed during their first watch of Philosopher's Stone. When Snape corners Harry in that first potions class, asking what he'd get if he mixed asphodel and wormwood, it seems like typical teacher intimidation, just Snape being his usual unpleasant self, right? Wrong. That seemingly random question contains one of the most heartbreaking hidden messages in the entire series. Asphodel, in the Victorian language of flowers, means my regrets follow you to the grave. Wormwood represents absence and bitter sorrow. Put them together, and Snape is essentially saying, I bitterly regret Lily's death. This isn't just botanical trivia, it's a confession disguised as a potions lesson. The answer to his question makes it even more devastating. Mixing asphodel and wormwood creates the draught of living death, a potion that puts someone in such a deep sleep they appear dead. Think about that for a moment. Snape's first words to Harry Potter reference a potion about appearing dead, while secretly communicating his grief over Lily's actual death. But here's where it gets really clever. Most viewers assume Snape asks this question because he wants to humiliate Harry on his first day. They see a bitter teacher picking on the famous boy who lived. What they don't realize is that Snape is looking at James Potter's face while thinking about Lily Potter's death. Every word carries double meaning. The timing of this scene makes it even more significant. Harry has just entered the wizarding world. He doesn't know his parents' story yet. He has no idea about Snape's history with them. But Snape knows everything. He sees Lily's eyes in James's face, and it's tearing him apart. J.K. Rowling planted this emotional bomb in the very first book, knowing readers wouldn't understand its significance until much later. That's the genius of it. When you re-watch this scene after learning about Snape's love for Lily, the entire interaction transforms. What seemed like cruelty becomes tragedy. Then there's the deeper layer most people miss entirely. Snape isn't just communicating his grief. He's testing whether Harry has any knowledge of the wizarding world beyond his fame. The question about asphodel and wormwood appears in advanced potions textbooks. No first-year student should know this. Snape is trying to figure out if Harry is just another celebrity brat or if he's actually studied magic. When Harry can't answer, Snape's disappointment isn't just about the wrong response. It's about seeing another reminder that Harry grew up without his magical heritage, without Lily's influence. The boy doesn't even know the basics his mother would have taught him. Let's not forget the visual symbolism happening simultaneously. Snape looms over Harry, dressed in black like he's in permanent mourning, which, in a way, he is. He's been grieving Lily for 11 years, and now her son sits before him as a living reminder of both his greatest love and his biggest failure. The flower language Rowling uses isn't accidental either. Victorian flower meanings were incredibly specific, and authors of that era used them to communicate forbidden emotions. Snape essentially confesses his feelings using a code Harry can't possibly understand. It's brilliant storytelling hidden in plain sight. What makes this even more heartbreaking is how it sets up their entire relationship. Every interaction between Snape and Harry carries this subtext. Snape sees Lily in Harry's eyes but James in everything else. He's protecting the child of his lost love while being reminded of his enemy every single day. The movie delivers this scene with Alan Rickman's perfect performance, though most viewers miss the emotional weight. His pause before asking the question isn't theatrical, it's Snape gathering courage to voice his pain in the only way he can. The slight tremor in his voice when he says asphodel reveals everything, if you know what to listen for. This hidden message also explains why Snape becomes even more bitter when Harry can't answer. He's not just annoyed by ignorance. He's devastated that Lily's son knows nothing about the magical world she loved. It's like watching part of her memory disappear. Even the classroom setting reinforces the symbolism. Potions involves transformation, changing one thing into another. Snape has been transformed by grief, just like his ingredients are transformed by fire and time. He's no longer the young man who loved Lily. He's something darker, more complex. The real kicker comes when you realize Snape probably planned this question specifically for Harry. He knew James and Lily's son would be in his class. He prepared this coded message, this hidden confession, knowing Harry wouldn't understand it. It's a secret shared with no one, which makes it even more tragic. This scene sets up one of the series' most important themes. Nothing is quite what it seems. Snape appears to be a villain, but carries the deepest love. A simple potions question becomes a declaration of eternal regret. But speaking of hidden meanings that transform entire scenes, wait until you discover why Neville Longbottom is the only student missing something crucial in his very first appearance. In the magical world of Harry Potter, costumes tell stories. Every robe, every cloak, every piece of clothing carries meaning. But there's one missing piece that speaks volumes about a character before he even says a word. Watch the opening feast scene in Philosopher's Stone carefully. All the first-year students sit at their house tables, nervous and excited. They're wrapped in their new Hogwarts cloaks, looking like proper witches and wizards for the first time. Well, almost all of them. Neville Longbottom sits there without his cloak. Where is it? Did he forget it in his trunk? Leave it on the train. This tiny costume choice reveals everything about Neville's character in just one visual moment. He's the kid who loses things. The one who's always slightly unprepared. The forgetful student who can't remember where he put his remembrall, ironically enough. But here's where it gets interesting. The missing cloak also serves another purpose that most fans miss. At this point in the story, there's still mystery around who the boy who lived really is. Neville was born on July 30th, just one day before Harry's July 31st birthday. Both boys fit Trelawney's prophecy about the one who could defeat Voldemort. The filmmakers knew this. They deliberately made Neville look different, vulnerable, and special in this scene. His missing cloak makes him stand out just as much as Harry's lightning bolt scar does. Two boys both marked as different from their very first moment at Hogwarts. Then there's the practical magic of this choice. Costume designer Judianna Makovsky didn't randomly decide to leave off Neville's cloak. Every piece of clothing in these movies gets planned months in advance. Someone specifically wrote on a costume list, "Neville no cloak." The absence tells a story that dialogue couldn't. If Neville had spoken about being forgetful, it would feel forced. Instead, we see it immediately. He's the kind of kid who shows up to the most important night of his life missing a crucial piece of his outfit. Matthew Lewis, who played Neville, probably felt as exposed as his character in this scene. Imagine sitting among dozens of other young actors, all properly dressed, while you're the only one without the complete costume. That real discomfort translates perfectly to what Neville feels as a character. Fast forward through the series, and Neville's relationship with clothing becomes a running theme. His robes never quite fit right. His dress robes for the Yule Ball are particularly tragic. Even when he tries to look proper, something's always slightly off. But the missing cloak in that first scene does something else clever. It makes Neville memorable when he could easily get lost among all the other new students. Your eye goes to him because he looks different. In a sea of black cloaks, the absence of one creates a visual gap that draws attention. The detail works on multiple levels too. New students should feel nervous and underprepared for Hogwarts. Neville embodies that feeling perfectly. He's not just anxious about being sorted or making friends. He couldn't even manage to put on his complete uniform correctly. Yet there's something endearing about it. While other students hide behind their proper cloaks, Neville sits there authentically himself. Flawed, unprepared, but genuine. The missing cloak makes him more human and relatable than the perfectly dressed students around him. This connects to a larger pattern in the Harry Potter films. The costume designers used clothing to show character growth throughout the series. Neville starts without his cloak, looking lost and unprepared. By the final films, he's leading Dumbledore's army, properly dressed and confident. The transformation becomes even more meaningful when you remember how it started. The boy who couldn't manage to wear his complete uniform eventually becomes the one teaching other students how to fight Death Eaters. What makes this detail so brilliant is its subtlety. The movie doesn't pause to explain Neville's missing cloak. There's no dramatic zoom-in or character commentary. It's just there for viewers who notice small details. The filmmakers trusted their audience to pick up on these visual clues. The missing cloak also reflects something deeper about Neville's home life. His grandmother Augusta Longbottom is strict and proper, always perfectly dressed. Yet somehow Neville arrives at Hogwarts missing part of his uniform. This suggests he's been struggling with expectations and organization long before he got to school. Most viewers focus on Harry's dramatic introduction or Hermione's know-it-all answers during this scene. Meanwhile, Neville sits quietly in the background, his missing cloak telling its own story about a boy who's already different, already struggling, but destined for something greater than anyone imagines. Speaking of destined moments, there's another character whose clothing choices reveal hidden prophecies. Grindelwald wasn't just a one-time villain who appeared and disappeared. This dark wizard had a philosophy that stretched across decades, and if you pay attention, his core beliefs echo through both the Fantastic Beasts series and the original Harry Potter films. The creepy part: his prophecies and ideas about the greater good weren't just random evil speeches. They were carefully crafted messages that fans can trace from his early days right through to his final defeat. When Grindelwald speaks about his visions of the future in the Fantastic Beasts movies, he's not making stuff up on the spot. These prophecies directly connect to events that happen in Harry Potter's time. He talks about a war that will consume the wizarding world, muggles discovering magic, and the need for wizards to rule over non-magical people. Sound familiar? That's because every single one of these predictions comes true in some form during Voldemort's rise to power. But here's where it gets really interesting. Grindelwald's famous phrase about the greater good isn't just something he made up for his own evil plans. Young Albus Dumbledore actually believed in this idea too. The phrase appears in letters between the two future enemies when they were friends, and Dumbledore struggles with this concept his entire life. When you watch the Harry Potter movies knowing this backstory, Dumbledore's difficult decisions make so much more sense. The most chilling prophecy shows up in The Secrets of Dumbledore, where Grindelwald describes seeing a terrible war between wizards and muggles. He talks about cities burning and magic being exposed to the non-magical world. Fast forward to the Harry Potter series, and you see exactly this happening during Voldemort's reign of terror. The Ministry of Magic gets taken over, muggles start getting targeted, and the wizarding world nearly collapses into chaos. What makes this connection even more spine-tingling is how Grindelwald describes his role as a savior. He genuinely believes he's trying to prevent something worse from happening. This twisted logic mirrors how Voldemort later justifies his own actions. Both villains think they're saving the wizarding world by destroying parts of it first. The scary truth? They might have seen glimpses of each other's futures in their prophecies. Then there's Grindelwald's obsession with the Deathly Hallows, which becomes crucial in the final Harry Potter film. His symbol appears throughout both series, carved into walls and worn as jewelry. When you spot it in Fantastic Beasts, you're seeing the same symbol that Luna Lovegood's father wears to Harry and Hermione's horror. The symbol connects both timelines because Grindelwald never stopped believing in the power of the Deathly Hallows, even from his prison cell. The weirdest part is how some of Grindelwald's followers in Fantastic Beasts use almost identical phrases to Death Eaters in the Harry Potter films. They talk about purity and the natural order in ways that sound disturbingly similar. This isn't coincidence. It shows how dangerous ideas get passed down through generations of dark wizards. Grindelwald's propaganda techniques also mirror what we see in the Harry Potter series. He uses fear of muggles discovering magic to recruit followers, just like how Voldemort later uses fear of muggle-borns stealing magic. Both villains take legitimate concerns and twist them into excuses for violence and control. The Ministry of Magic falls for these tactics twice, decades apart. Let's not forget how Grindelwald's defeat creates the power vacuum that eventually leads to Voldemort's rise. When Dumbledore finally faces his former friend in 1945, he doesn't just win a duel, he prevents one dark wizard from taking over, only to create conditions for an even worse one to emerge later. The wizarding world never really learns from its mistakes. The most haunting connection appears in Grindelwald's final scene in Deathly Hallows. When Voldemort comes looking for the Elder Wand, the old dark wizard actually lies to protect Dumbledore's memory. After decades in prison, he's finally understood that his prophecies led to something far worse than what he originally predicted. His last act is trying to prevent Voldemort from gaining ultimate power. These returning prophecies prove that the wizarding world's problems run much deeper than individual villains. Grindelwald saw the future, and tried to control it through fear and domination. Voldemort inherited that same vision, and made it even more twisted. Both believed they were fulfilling destiny, but they were actually creating the very disasters they claimed to prevent. The scariest part, some of Grindelwald's original prophecies still haven't been fully resolved by the end of Harry Potter's story. His warnings about the magical and non-magical worlds eventually colliding remain ominously relevant. Speaking of ominous details that span multiple films, there's another story that connects both series in an even more fundamental way. When you're watching Deathly Hallows, that animated sequence showing the tale of the three brothers hits differently. The stark black silhouettes, the eerie narration, the ancient feel of it all. But here's what most fans miss. This isn't just a one-off story created for Harry's adventure. It's actually the backbone mythology that connects the entire wizarding world, spanning across both Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts in ways that'll make you want to re-watch everything. The story itself is deceptively simple. Three brothers outsmart death, each receiving a powerful gift. The Elder Wand for the first brother, the Resurrection Stone for the second, and the Invisibility Cloak for the third. Classic fairy tale stuff, right? Well, the weird part is how this ancient legend keeps showing up in the most unexpected places throughout both film series. Let's start with the obvious connections. Harry's invisibility cloak isn't just any cloak. It's the cloak from the story, the one that makes its wearer truly invisible, passed down through the Potter family for generations. Meanwhile, Voldemort spends years hunting the Elder Wand, convinced it'll make him unbeatable. These aren't random magical objects. They're pieces of the most important story in wizarding folklore. But here's where things get interesting. The symbols from this tale don't just appear in Deathly Hallows. Sharp-eyed viewers will spot them scattered throughout the Fantastic Beasts movies too. Grindelwald's obsession with the Deathly Hallows symbol predates Voldemort's by decades. The triangular symbol representing the cloak, the circle for the stone, and the line for the wand. It's Grindelwald's calling card long before Harry ever heard the story. Then there's something most people completely overlook. The animation style used for the Three Brothers sequence in Deathly Hallows. Those same visual elements pop up in Fantastic Beasts when ancient magic or old stories are referenced. The filmmakers deliberately chose to keep that aesthetic consistent across both series. It's like they're saying, hey, this is all the same magical universe with the same ancient history. What makes this even more fascinating is how different characters interpret the tale. Xenophilius Lovegood tells it as historical fact. Hermione dismisses it as just another fairy tale. Dumbledore knows it's real because he lived it. Grindelwald treats it as prophecy. Each perspective adds another layer to how this story functions in the wizarding world. The really clever bit is how the tale works on multiple levels. Kids watching see a cool animated sequence about magical objects. Adults catch the deeper themes about mortality, power, and acceptance. Hardcore fans recognize it as the thread connecting decades of wizarding history across multiple film series. Let's not forget how the brothers' story mirrors the main characters' journeys. Harry could easily become like the first brother, drunk on power from the Elder Wand. Instead, he chooses the path of the third brother, humble, wise, accepting of death when it comes naturally. Voldemort represents everything the first brother got wrong, believing he could cheat death through force. The animation itself deserves more credit too. Those shadow puppet-style visuals weren't just artistic choice, they were practical genius. By using that stark, timeless style, the filmmakers made sure the sequence would feel ancient no matter when you watched it. Whether you're seeing it in 2010 or 2030, the Three Brothers story looks like it could have been told for centuries. But here's the detail that'll blow your mind. The voice narration for this sequence was recorded specifically to sound like an old storyteller passing down oral tradition. Every pause, every emphasis was designed to make you feel like you're sitting around a campfire hearing family history. The audio engineering team spent weeks getting that ancient weathered quality just right. And the weird part is how this fairy tale becomes more relevant as the series progresses. First viewing, you think it's just background mythology. Second viewing, you realize every major plot point somehow connects back to these three magical objects. By your third watch, you're noticing how the brothers' choices reflect the moral dilemmas every character faces. The most brilliant aspect might be how the tale functions as a mirror. Show it to a room full of people and ask which brother they'd want to be. The answers reveal everything about their relationship with power, death, and family. Harry chooses wisdom over strength. Voldemort chooses dominance over acceptance. This ancient story bridges not just the two film series, but the gap between children's fantasy and adult philosophy. Pretty impressive for a brief animated sequence most viewers probably forgot about 5 minutes later. Makes you wonder what other seemingly simple moments are actually holding the entire magical universe together. Every year at Hogwarts before the feast begins, the Sorting Hat breaks into song. Most students probably think it's just tradition. Teachers smile politely while first years fidget nervously. But here's the thing fans miss. The Hat isn't just singing random verses about house unity and bravery. The Sorting Hat is literally predicting the future. Take the song from Order of the Phoenix. While students munch on chicken legs, the Hat warns about enemies of the air beware. Dark times are coming, it says. Unity will be tested. Houses must stand together or fall apart. Sounds dramatic, right? Well, Voldemort returns that same year. The Hat knew. In Goblet of Fire, the song mentions how bold Gryffindor and fair Ravenclaw once worked together, but division tore them apart. Guess what happens? The Triwizard Tournament creates massive divisions between schools and students. Harry gets blamed for cheating. Trust breaks down everywhere. The Hat saw it coming months ahead. But the really clever part, the Hat reacts to immediate danger too. In Chamber of Secrets, its song focuses heavily on Salazar Slytherin and his pure blood obsession. Most kids probably zone out during the history lesson. Teachers think it's educational. Meanwhile, the Chamber of Secrets is already open. Students are getting petrified. The basilisk is hunting. The Hat knows something terrible connected to Slytherin's legacy is happening right under everyone's noses. The Hat even drops hints about specific people. In Philosopher's Stone, it sings about how perhaps in Slytherin, you'll make your real friends. Everyone assumes it's talking to potential Slytherin students. Actually, it might be hinting at how Harry will need to understand Slytherin students like Draco to survive future conflicts. The hat sees connections decades in advance. Then there's the mathematical precision. The hat typically sings 4 verses, 1 for each house. But when danger is highest, it adds extra verses, more warnings, longer explanations. In Order of the Phoenix, the song goes on forever, because the stakes are higher than ever. Students start getting restless, but the hat won't shut up because lives depend on its message. What makes this even more brilliant is how the hat delivers spoilers without anyone realizing. In Half-Blood Prince, it sings about how Hogwarts is in danger from external deadly foes. Students probably think it's being dramatic. Teachers assume it's general wisdom. Nobody connects it to Death Eaters planning to infiltrate the school through Draco's vanishing cabinet scheme. The hat literally tells everyone the plot, but nobody listens. The funniest part: students treat these songs like background noise. They're more interested in the food appearing on tables. First years are terrified about being sorted. Older students chat with friends. Everyone misses the supernatural weather forecast happening right in front of them. Look at the language patterns too. When the hat uses words like darkness, division or danger, pay attention to what happens that school year. When it emphasizes unity and cooperation, major teamwork will be needed. When it mentions specific founders by name, their legacies become relevant to current events. The hat doesn't waste words. Some fans theorize the hat taps into the collective unconscious of Hogwarts itself. The castle has seen everything for 1,000 years. Every secret, every plot, every midnight wandering gets absorbed into the stones. The hat, connected to the school's magic, channels these insights into cryptic verses. It's like having a magical security system that communicates through poetry. Here's where it gets weird though. The hat sometimes seems to address individuals directly within the general song. Harry always feels like certain lines are meant for him specifically. Hermione notices references that match her current research. Even Neville picks up on subtle encouragements during his darkest moments. The hat multitasks, delivering personalized messages inside public announcements. The most overlooked detail: the hat's tone changes based on the threat level. Cheerful songs mean safe years ahead. Somber, serious songs mean buckle up for trouble. Urgent, passionate songs mean immediate danger. It's like a magical alert system disguised as entertainment. Teachers know this, by the way. Dumbledore always listens intently to every word. McGonagall takes notes. Snape's expression shifts during certain verses. The adults understand they're receiving an annual intelligence briefing from the most informed magical object in Britain. Students just want dinner to start. But the hat's biggest secret might be how it chooses what to reveal. Some threats get detailed warnings. Others barely get mentioned. The hat seems to know exactly how much information will help versus cause panic. It's playing a 1,000-year chess game with fate itself. The next time you watch a Harry Potter movie, listen carefully when the hat opens its fabric mouth. Those aren't just songs about school spirit. They're prophecies wrapped in rhyme, delivered by the wisest object in the wizarding world. Speaking of prophecies, there's another character who's been hiding in plain sight throughout the entire series. Professor Quirrell's purple turban isn't just a fashion choice. It's hiding the most dangerous secret in Philosopher's Stone, and if you know where to look, you can actually spot Voldemort's face underneath the fabric before the big reveal. The filmmakers dropped visual hints throughout the entire movie that most people completely miss. Watch Quirrell carefully during his scenes. He never turns his back to Harry, ever. This isn't an accident or poor blocking. It's deliberate storytelling. The man is literally carrying Voldemort on the back of his head, so he can't risk exposing that side to anyone, especially Harry Potter. Every conversation, every classroom scene, every hallway encounter has Quirrell positioned so his turban's back stays hidden from view. The turban itself moves at weird moments. During the troll scene in the dungeon, if you pause at just the right moment, you can see the fabric shifting and bulging in ways that fabric shouldn't move. It's subtle, but it's there. The special effects team added these tiny details, knowing most viewers wouldn't catch them on first watch, but they reward eagle-eyed fans who pay attention to background elements. Then there's Quirrell's nervous habits. He's constantly touching and adjusting his turban, almost like he's checking to make sure everything stays in place. Most people assume he's just anxious, which he definitely is, but there's a deeper reason. He's literally managing a second person living on his skull. The man has to keep Voldemort comfortable and hidden simultaneously, which explains all that fidgeting and repositioning. The color choice matters too. Purple might seem random, but it's actually perfect for hiding things. The deep, rich fabric creates shadows that mask any irregular shapes or movements underneath. A white or yellow turban would make every bump and bulge obvious. But purple, it's like camouflage for dark magic. The costume designers knew exactly what they were doing. During Quirrell's defense against the dark arts lessons, he always faces the blackboard or students directly, never sideways, never turning around to write extensively. Other professors move naturally around their classrooms, but Quirrell's movement patterns are restricted and careful. He's protecting his secret with every step and gesture. The really creepy part comes during close-up shots. If you look at the turban fabric near Quirrell's neck, you can sometimes see what looks like veins or dark lines running through the material. These aren't wrinkles or shadows. They're meant to suggest something living and breathing underneath. The makeup and effects teams added these details knowing they'd be almost invisible, unless someone was specifically looking for them. Quirrell's speech patterns change throughout the movie too. Early on he stutters and stammers constantly, but as the story progresses and Voldemort gets stronger, the stuttering becomes less frequent. By the final confrontation, when Voldemort takes control, Quirrell's voice becomes completely different, deeper, more confident, more threatening. It's like watching two different people inhabit the same body, which is exactly what's happening. The mirror scene in particular rewards careful viewing. When Quirrell approaches the mirror of Erised, watch how he positions himself. He never gets close enough for the mirror to reflect the back of his head clearly. Even when he's talking to Harry and examining the mirror's surface, his angle stays carefully controlled. The blocking makes perfect sense once you know what he's hiding. Most viewers focus on Harry's reaction to seeing his parents in the mirror, but Quirrell's behavior during this scene tells its own story. He's nervous, distracted, constantly glancing around. At one point, he actually reaches up to touch his turban, then stops himself. Book. It's like he's having an internal conversation, which of course he literally is. The final revelation scene becomes even more impactful when you realize all these hints were there from the beginning. Voldemort's face emerging from the back of Quirrell's head isn't just a shocking plot twist, it's the payoff for dozens of tiny visual clues scattered throughout the film. The purple turban that seemed like a quirky character detail was actually the perfect hiding spot for the wizarding world's most feared villain. Understanding Quirrell's secret makes rewatching Philosopher's Stone a completely different experience. Every scene becomes a game of spot the hidden Dark Lord, and suddenly all those awkward pauses and strange movements make perfect sense. But Quirrell isn't the only character whose true nature gets hidden in plain sight. Sometimes the most obvious things in the wizarding world are actually the hardest to notice, especially when they involve the very architecture of magic itself. Here's something that drives hardcore Harry Potter fans absolutely crazy. You know how Hogwarts is supposed to be this ancient, unchanging castle? Well, the movies tell a completely different story. The layout shifts and morphs between films like the castle has a mind of its own. Let's start with the Great Hall. In the first movie, those house tables run parallel to the staff table. Makes sense, right? But by the third film, they're suddenly perpendicular. The entire dining arrangement just flipped. No explanation, no magical renovation montage. It just happened. Then there's the moving staircase situation. The books describe them as constantly shifting, which sounds chaotic but manageable. The movies, they turn it into an architectural nightmare. Staircases lead to completely different floors, depending on which film you're watching. One day they take you to the library, the next they dump you in a random corridor that didn't exist yesterday. The most confusing part has to be Dumbledore's office. Sometimes it's accessed through that golden griffin elevator thing. Other times there's a spiral staircase that appears out of nowhere. The office itself changes size and layout more than a reality TV show makeover. Those spinning silver instruments multiply and disappear like they're breeding when nobody's looking. But wait, there's more weirdness. The defense against the dark arts classroom relocates itself every few movies. Snape teaches potions in a dungeon that looks completely different in each appearance. Even the hospital wing can't decide where it wants to be. Madame Pomfrey must have the worst commute in magical history. Harry's dormitory is another mystery. The layout shifts, the number of beds changes, and don't even get me started on the bathroom situation. Sometimes there are multiple floors visible. Sometimes it's just one level. The windows face different directions depending on the movie's mood. The Marauders map should theoretically solve all these problems. It shows Hogwarts accurately, down to secret passages and hidden rooms. Yet somehow the movies can't keep their own geography straight. Fred and George created the ultimate GPS system for their school, but the filmmakers apparently lost the instructions. Here's where it gets really wild though. Some fans have turned this chaos into a feature, not a bug. They argue that Hogwarts is magical, so why shouldn't it rearrange itself? The castle has personality, they say. It grows and changes like a living thing. Room requirements shift. Student needs evolve, so the building adapts accordingly. This theory actually makes some sense when you think about the room of requirement. That space literally transforms based on what people need. What if the entire castle has similar properties, just more subtle? Maybe Hogwarts redesigns itself gradually, moving classrooms closer to where they're most needed, adjusting dormitory layouts for better student dynamics. The moving staircases support this idea too. If they can shift around randomly, why not the rest of the architecture? Perhaps the castle management system runs deeper than anyone realizes. Hogwarts might be the ultimate smart building, centuries before Muggles even invented the concept. Then again, maybe the real explanation is simpler and less magical. Different movie sets, different directors, different interpretations of the source material. Film production isn't always about perfect continuity, especially when you're dealing with multiple directors across 8 movies spanning a decade. Set designers had to balance book accuracy with practical filmmaking needs. Sometimes you need a bigger space for elaborate action sequences. Other times intimate scenes require cozier settings. The Great Hall table arrangement probably changed because it looked better on camera, not because of any deep magical reasoning. Lighting requirements, camera angles and special effects all influence set design too. What works for a quiet dialogue scene might not work for a massive battle sequence. The castle layout had to serve the story, even if it meant sacrificing geographical consistency. Studio space limitations played a role as well. You can't always rebuild identical sets years later, especially when production moves between different facilities. Props get lost, measurements get forgotten, and new construction teams interpret old designs differently. The real magic trick here is that most viewers never notice these inconsistencies during their first watch. You're too caught up in the story, the characters, the spells and creatures. Only obsessive fans with pause buttons and floor plans spot the architectural anarchy. This constant shifting creates an unintentionally perfect metaphor for memory itself. Hogwarts changes the same way our recollections do. Details shift, layouts blur, and what felt huge as a child seems smaller when revisited. Maybe that's the most honest way to portray a school that lives primarily in nostalgia. Speaking of things that shift and change throughout the series, the founders of Hogwarts left behind some pretty important items that keep popping up in unexpected places. Buried deep in the wizarding world's most famous school are 4 objects that connect everything. Each Hogwarts founder left behind something precious, something powerful, and these relics would eventually become the key to Voldemort's downfall, though nobody knew it at the time. Godric Gryffindor's sword gets the most screen time, but even then, most people miss its true magic. The blade doesn't just cut through things, it absorbs whatever makes it stronger. When Harry kills the basilisk in Chamber of Secrets, the sword soaks up the venom. Later, this same venom-coated blade becomes one of the few things that can destroy Horcruxes. Pretty convenient timing, right? The sword appears again in Deathly Hallows, hidden at the bottom of a frozen pond. Snape puts it there, knowing Harry will need it. But here's the weird part. The sword can only be pulled by someone truly brave. It literally chooses its owner. Then there's Helga Hufflepuff's cup, which looks innocent enough until you realize what it becomes. Voldemort turns this ancient relic into a Horcrux, hiding a piece of his soul inside. The cup sits in Bellatrix's vault at Gringotts, surrounded by treasure that multiplies and burns when touched. Remember that multiplying charm from earlier? Same magic, different movie. The cup's design shows tiny badgers, Hufflepuff's symbol, carved around the edges. You'd need to pause the movie to spot them, but they're there. Salazar Slytherin's locket tells the most tragic story of all. This thing drives people absolutely mad when they wear it. Ron almost abandons his best friends because of it. The locket whispers terrible things, showing the wearer their worst fears. When Harry and Hermione wear it, you can see them getting more paranoid and angry. The locket's surface shows a serpentine sad that seems to move in certain light. It's subtle, but the special effects team made sure it looked alive and sinister. And the weird part is how Regulus Black discovered the locket's true nature. He figured out Voldemort's Horcrux plan, and tried to destroy it himself. The poor guy died in that cave, leaving behind a note that nobody found for years. His sacrifice gets maybe 2 minutes of explanation in the entire series, but it's one of the most heroic acts in the story. Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem stays hidden the longest, tucked away in the Room of Requirement. This crown supposedly makes the wearer wiser, which explains why Voldemort wanted it so badly. The diadem has tiny sapphires that form constellation patterns, a detail you'd never notice unless someone told you. Helena Ravenclaw, the Grey Lady ghost, stole it from her mother centuries ago. She tells Harry where to find it, but only after he figures out the right questions to ask. Let's not forget how these objects connect across multiple movies. The sword appears in 3 different films. The cup shows up in Bellatrix's memories before Harry ever sees it. The locket drives the plot of an entire movie. The diadem hides in plain sight for years. Each relic represents its founder's values, but Voldemort corrupts 3 of them into something evil. The founders probably never imagined their precious belongings would become weapons in a war against the darkest wizard of all time. Gryffindor's sword helps destroy Horcruxes. Hufflepuff's cup becomes one. Slytherin's locket nearly destroys friendships. Ravenclaw's diadem burns in magical fire that's supposedly impossible to put out. But here's what makes it really clever. The movies show you these objects long before explaining their importance. The sword saves Harry in his 2nd year. The locket appears in Order of the Phoenix, sitting in a cabinet at Grimmauld Place. Fans who read the books knew what they were seeing, but movie-only viewers had to wait years for the payoff. The designs themselves tell stories. Gryffindor's sword has rubies that match his house colors. Hufflepuff's cup shows her badger symbol. Slytherin's locket bears his serpent mark. Ravenclaw's diadem displays her eagle, and the words "wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure." Every detail was planned. These 4 objects prove that the past never really dies in the wizarding world. Things that happened 1,000 years ago still matter. The founders' personalities live on through their belongings. Gryffindor's courage, Hufflepuff's loyalty, Ravenclaw's wisdom, and Slytherin's ambition. Of course, there's another magical space at Hogwarts that's even more mysterious than the founders' relics. A room that appears only when you need it most, changing its entire appearance based on your deepest desires. This place holds secrets that even Dumbledore admits he's never fully understood. The Room of Requirement doesn't follow normal rules. While every other room at Hogwarts stays put, this one decides to be different. It only shows up when someone truly needs it. And here's the weird part, it becomes exactly what that person requires. Need a place to practice illegal defense against the dark arts? Done. Want somewhere to hide a dangerous object for centuries? No problem. Looking for a bathroom? Well, that's covered too. Dumbledore mentions this room only once in passing during Goblet of Fire. He claims he stumbled upon it when desperately needing a toilet, and it appeared full of chamber pots. Classic Dumbledore humor, right? But he's actually revealing something massive about how this magic works. The room doesn't just appear randomly, it reads your deepest need and responds accordingly. Harry discovers the room's true power much later, but the clues are scattered throughout earlier films. Remember those times when students seemed to vanish into thin air during stressful moments? They weren't using invisibility cloaks. They were finding spaces that shouldn't exist. The castle itself was helping them hide. Then there's Dobby's role in all this. House elves know about the Room of Requirement, because they've been using it for centuries. They need places to work, rest, and hide from cruel masters. The room provides. When Dobby leads Harry there in Order of the Phoenix, he's sharing ancient house elf knowledge. This isn't just convenient plotting, it's cultural exchange between species. But here's where things get really interesting. The room can't create food. Following Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration, it can't bring back the dead. It can't make you truly happy if you're grieving. The room has limits, which makes its magic feel more real. Even in a world of spells and potions, some rules can't be broken. During Order of the Phoenix, the room transforms into a perfect training ground for Dumbledore's army. Bookshelves appear filled with exactly the right defense against the dark arts materials. Practice dummies position themselves for optimal learning. The walls even muffle sound so Umbridge can't hear what's happening inside. Every detail serves the group's specific needs. The room's appearance changes dramatically between its different uses. For the DA, it's bright and encouraging. When Draco needs to fix the vanishing cabinet in Half-Blood Prince, it becomes a workshop filled with dark arts tools and repair materials. By Deathly Hallows, when it's hiding centuries of lost objects, the room stretches into a massive warehouse. Same magic, completely different presentations. What's fascinating is how the room handles multiple people with different needs. When the DA meets, it doesn't just serve Harry's requirements, it considers everyone present. Neville's confidence issues, Hermione's perfectionism, Luna's unique perspective. The room somehow balances all these individual needs into one shared space. That's incredibly sophisticated magic. The Room of Hidden Things deserves special attention. This version appears when someone needs to hide something they never want found again. Students have been stashing embarrassing items, dangerous experiments, and forbidden objects there for over 1,000 years. The room keeps everything, creating a museum of Hogwarts secrets. When Harry hides his potions book there, he's adding to centuries of accumulated shame and regret. Voldemort's attempt to hide Ravenclaw's diadem in this room shows both his brilliance and his fatal flaw. He correctly identifies that nobody could find something in that chaos of objects. But he doesn't understand that the room responds to need, not just intent. When Harry desperately needs to find that diadem, the room helps him. It's almost like the castle itself chooses sides in the final battle. The room's destruction during the Battle of Hogwarts is genuinely heartbreaking. Crabbe's fiendfire doesn't just burn objects, it burns centuries of student history. Every hidden love letter, every failed experiment, every embarrassing mistake gets consumed. The room dies trying to contain magical fire that feeds on everything it touches. Let's not forget the room's connection to Hogwarts' overall consciousness. The castle has always been semi-alive, with moving staircases and portraits that gossip. The Room of Requirement might be the castle's most direct way of caring for its students. When someone truly needs help, Hogwarts provides. It's like having a building that genuinely wants you to succeed. The movies never fully explain how students first discover the room. The books mention walking past the same stretch of wall 3 times while focusing on what you need. But there's clearly more to it than that simple ritual. The room chooses who gets to find it, adding another layer of mystery to its magic. And the weirdest detail, the room can apparently create living creatures when absolutely necessary. Those practice dummies aren't just moving objects, they respond intelligently to spells and adapt their behavior. The boundary between transfiguration and creation gets blurry when discussing what this space can actually do. But even the Room of Requirement can't solve every problem, which brings us to another magical mystery that connects life and death in ways most wizards fear to explore. Death has a strange way of opening doors you never knew existed. Harry Potter discovers this the hard way when he first encounters the Strolls at the beginning of his 5th year. These skeletal winged horses suddenly appear pulling the carriages to Hogwarts, visible to him for the first time after witnessing Cedric Diggory's murder. But here's the fascinating detail most viewers miss. The movie doesn't explicitly explain why Harry can suddenly see these creatures. You have to piece it together yourself. The Strolls are only visible to those who have witnessed death and truly processed what it means. Not just seen someone die but genuinely understood the finality of it. This creates an interesting timeline problem that fans love debating. Harry technically saw his mother die when he was a baby, right? Well, that's the clever part. He was too young to comprehend what death actually meant. The trauma was there but the understanding wasn't. Cedric's death hits differently because Harry is old enough to grasp the full weight of loss. Luna Lovegood also sees the Strolls, which drops a massive hint about her backstory without saying a word. She mentions her mother died in a magical experiment gone wrong, but the movies never show this tragedy. Her ability to see Thedrals is the only clue viewers get about her personal loss. It's a subtle way of showing that Luna carries grief beneath her dreamy exterior. Then there's the brilliant misdirection in their appearance. These creatures look absolutely terrifying when you first see them. Black, skeletal, bat-like wings, glowing white eyes. Everything about them screams danger. Harry's initial reaction mirrors what most people would feel: pure fear. But Hagrid explains they're actually gentle, loyal, and incredibly intelligent. The design choice here is genius. The filmmakers made Thedrals look like death itself, which perfectly matches how many people view mortality as something frightening and unwelcome. But just like death, the Strolls are simply part of the natural order. They're not evil or malicious, just misunderstood because of what they represent. What makes this even more poignant is how other students react to Harry's newfound ability. They can't see what he's seeing, which makes him feel even more isolated. He's already dealing with everyone thinking he's lying about Voldemort's return, and now he's seeing invisible creatures that apparently pull the school carriages. Talk about feeling like an outsider. The movies handle this beautifully by showing Harry reaching out to touch seemingly empty air, while other students give him worried looks. You can practically feel his frustration at being unable to explain what he's experiencing. It's a perfect metaphor for how grief can make you feel disconnected from people who haven't experienced similar loss. Hagrid's lesson about Thedrals also reveals something important about his character. He's one of the few people at Hogwarts who treats these creatures with respect and understanding rather than fear. This fits perfectly with his pattern of caring for misunderstood magical creatures throughout the series. Dragons, giant spiders, three-headed dogs. Hagrid sees beauty where others see danger. But the real Easter egg comes in how Thedrals connect to the broader story. These aren't just random magical creatures thrown in for one scene. They become crucial for transportation to the Ministry of Magic in the climactic battle. Harry's ability to see and understand them literally helps save the day. His experience with loss becomes a strength rather than just a burden. The movies also use Thedrals to show Harry's growing maturity. In earlier films he might have been scared and tried to avoid these creatures. By his 5th year he approaches them with curiosity and respect. He's learned that things that appear frightening often have deeper meaning and purpose. There's something beautifully circular about how Thedrals represent both death and life. They're associated with loss, but they also provide transportation and assistance to the living. They bridge the gap between what was and what continues to be. For Harry, who lost his parents but carries their love with him, this symbolism runs deep. The creature design team deserves credit for making Thedrals feel both otherworldly and believable. They move with an ethereal grace that suggests they exist partially in our world and partially somewhere else. When they take flight, there's something almost spiritual about watching them soar through the clouds. Most importantly, the Thedrals teach Harry that seeing difficult truths doesn't have to be a curse. Yes, he can see them because he's experienced trauma. But this same experience gives him empathy, understanding, and ultimately the ability to help others. His grief becomes a bridge to connection rather than isolation. The introduction of the Thedrals marks a turning point where the Harry Potter series fully embraces deeper, more complex themes about mortality and loss, while creatures that initially appear frightening reveal their true nature as guides through darkness. Hidden in the shadows of Grimmauld Place hangs one of the most detailed Easter eggs in the entire Harry Potter series. The Black family tapestry appears for maybe 30 seconds in Order of the Phoenix, but those 30 seconds contain enough backstory to fill an entire book. Most viewers notice the tapestry briefly when Sirius shows Harry around his childhood home. It's this massive wall hanging covered in names, dates, and burn marks. What they don't realize is that every single detail on that tapestry tells a story. The most obvious detail: Sirius Black's name has been literally burned off the fabric. His mother blasted him from the family tree when he ran away to live with James Potter's family. But here's where it gets interesting. The burn mark isn't clean. You can still make out parts of his name if you look closely enough. Even magical erasure couldn't completely remove him from the family. Then there's Bellatrix Lestrange, listed as Bellatrix Black before her marriage. Her name connects directly to Andromeda Tonks, who was also burned off for marrying a Muggle-born wizard. These aren't random details thrown in for decoration. They're explaining why Tonks can change her appearance and why she's connected to this dark wizarding family. The weird part is how the tapestry predicts future plot points. Regulus Black's name appears with a death date, but at this point in the movies nobody knows who he is. His story won't be revealed until later films when we learn about Raby and the fake locket Horcrux. The tapestry was dropping clues about Regulus before anyone knew to look for them, but the really clever bit involves the family motto. Toujours pur means always pure in French, explaining the Black family's obsession with blood purity. This motto appears throughout their house on various objects and decorations. It's like their twisted version of a family brand, stamped on everything they own. What makes this Easter egg brilliant is how it shows rather than tells. The movie never has a character explain the Black family's history in detail. Instead, they hang this tapestry on the wall and let observant viewers piece together the story themselves. It's visual storytelling at its finest. The tapestry also reveals connections that aren't mentioned anywhere else in the films. Narcissa Malfoy is listed as Narcissa Black, connecting Draco's mother directly to Sirius. This means Harry's godfather and his school rival are actually cousins. The pureblood families are all intertwined, which explains why they keep producing the same prejudiced attitudes generation after generation. Look closer and you'll find even more hidden details. Some names have different dates of death that don't match what we see in the movies. Others have marriage lines connecting to families that are never mentioned on screen. The prop department created an entire genealogy that extends far beyond what the story actually uses. The burn marks themselves tell different stories. Some are precise, surgical removals. Others look angry and rushed. You can almost imagine which family members made each mark and how they felt while doing it. Sirius's mother probably took her time burning his name off, making sure every letter was destroyed. What's fascinating is how the tapestry reflects real medieval family trees. Pure-blood wizarding families actually behave like old European nobility, tracking bloodlines and marriages with obsessive detail. The Black family tapestry looks authentic because it follows the same patterns that real aristocratic families used for centuries. The positioning matters too. The tapestry hangs in the most formal room of the house, where visitors would see it immediately. It's not just a family record, it's a statement of power and superiority. Everyone who enters that room gets reminded of the Black family's pure-blood status and long magical heritage. Hidden among all those names are characters who become important later but haven't been introduced yet. The tapestry is essentially a spoiler sheet for future plot developments, but it's disguised as background decoration. Only viewers who pause and study every detail will catch the foreshadowing. The magic of this Easter egg lies in its layers. First-time viewers see a fancy wall hanging. Second-time viewers start noticing the burn marks and recognizing familiar names. But it's the third and fourth viewings where the real treasure hunt begins, connecting family lines to future plot twists. This attention to detail shows why the Harry Potter films became more than just adaptations. They created a world where even the wallpaper tells stories. The Black family tapestry proves that sometimes the most important information is hiding in plain sight, waiting for curious fans to discover it. Speaking of hidden family connections, there's another magical object that holds secrets about bloodlines and inherited power. When Harry touches that gleaming Triwizard Cup at the end of the maze, he expects victory, cheers, maybe a trophy photo. What he gets instead is a one-way ticket to a graveyard, and face-to-face with Voldemort. The cup wasn't just a prize, it was a portkey, and arguably the most devastating plot twist in the entire series. Here's what makes this Easter egg so brilliant. Portkeys are supposed to be ordinary, everyday objects. A boot, an old newspaper, a rusty kettle, things that blend in perfectly because nobody would suspect them. But Barty Crouch Jr., disguised as Mad-Eye Moody, turned the tournament's most coveted prize into a deadly trap. The irony is almost poetic. Harry's moment of triumph becomes his greatest nightmare. The real genius lies in how the movies set this up without anyone noticing. Throughout Goblet of Fire, we see legitimate portkeys in action. Arthur Weasley uses that battered boot to transport his family to the Quidditch World Cup. It's shown as standard wizarding transportation, useful but unremarkable. The film establishes the rules clearly, then breaks them in the most shocking way possible. But there's a deeper layer here that most fans miss. The Triwizard Cup has been sitting in Dumbledore's office for months, maybe years. It's not some random object Crouch conjured up on the spot. He had to sneak into the headmaster's private space, perform incredibly advanced magic on a legendary artifact, and do it all without getting caught. The audacity is staggering. Then there's the timing aspect that makes this Easter egg even more clever. Crouch couldn't just make any old thing into a portkey and hand it to Harry. That would be suspicious. He needed something Harry would grab willingly, eagerly, even. The cup represents everything Harry has fought for throughout the tournament, proving himself, earning respect, bringing honor to Hogwarts. It's psychologically perfect bait. The visual storytelling here deserves serious credit too. When Harry and Cedric grab the cup together, there's this brief moment of shared triumph. They're both winners, they're both smiling. The cup gleams between them like a symbol of their friendship and sportsmanship. The cinematography makes it beautiful, almost heavenly, which makes what happens next absolutely gut-wrenching. What's really twisted is how Crouch uses the tournament's own rules against everyone. The maze is designed to test the champion's magical abilities and courage. It's supposed to be dangerous, but ultimately fair. By turning the finish line into a death trap, he corrupts the entire competition. Every challenge Harry overcame, every spell he mastered, every moment of growth, it all leads him straight into Voldemort's waiting arms. The technical magic involved here is fascinating too. Portkeys are supposed to activate at specific times, or when touched by specific people. Crouch had to program this one to work only when a champion reached the cup, and to transport them to that exact graveyard where Voldemort was waiting. The precision required is mind-boggling. One miscalculation, and the whole plan falls apart. There's also this haunting symmetry in how the portkey works both ways. After Voldemort's resurrection ceremony goes wrong and Harry escapes, the cup still functions as their ticket home. It becomes their salvation instead of their doom. The same object that brought them to hell carries them back to safety. That's not accidental. It's brilliant storytelling wrapped in magical logistics. The emotional impact hits differently when you realize Harry had to make a choice. He could have grabbed the cup alone and claimed victory. Instead, he suggests he and Cedric take it together because they're both Hogwarts champions. That moment of pure sportsmanship and friendship directly leads to Cedric's death. The guilt Harry carries isn't just about being unable to save Cedric. It's about being the one who suggested they share the victory. Looking back, there are subtle hints throughout the movie that something's off about the tournament. The Goblet of Fire selecting Harry when he never entered. The challenges seeming almost tailored to his specific skills. Tasks that push him to his limits, but never quite beyond them. Crouch as Moody constantly helping him succeed. It's all part of an elaborate year-long plan to get Harry to that graveyard. The Triwizard Cup transforms from symbol of achievement to instrument of betrayal to means of escape, all within minutes. That kind of layered storytelling makes it one of the most emotionally complex objects in the entire series. Speaking of complex magical objects with hidden purposes, there's another item in Harry's world that shows him exactly what his heart desires most. But sometimes that's more dangerous than any portkey. Look closely at the Mirror of Erezist, and you'll spot something clever hiding in plain sight. The name itself is Desire spelled backward, a wordplay, so simple yet brilliant that most viewers completely miss it. When Dumbledore explains the mirror to Harry, he's literally telling us what it does right in the title. But here's where things get really interesting. Harry sees his parents standing behind him, smiling and waving. Dumbledore claims he sees himself holding a pair of thick, woolen socks. One is a heartwarming family reunion. The other is socks. The old wizard is clearly lying, and fans have spent decades trying to figure out what Dumbledore really sees. Some believe he sees his family whole again. Ariana alive, Aberforth speaking to him, Grindelwald as the friend he once was. Others think he sees himself defeating Voldemort without Harry having to die. The socks comment is classic Dumbledore deflection. He's protecting Harry from knowing that even the greatest wizard alive has desperate, unfulfilled desires. Then there's the mirror's placement in the story. It appears right after Harry discovers he's famous, right after he learns about his parents' murder, right when he's most vulnerable to getting lost in fantasies. The timing isn't accidental. Dumbledore knows exactly what Harry will see, and he's testing whether the boy can handle the truth about loss and moving forward. What makes this scene even more fascinating is how it sets up everything that follows. Harry's deepest desire isn't power, fame, or magical ability. It's family. This single revelation shapes every major decision he makes. When he walks into the Forbidden Forest to face Voldemort in Deathly Hallows, he's not thinking about being a hero. He's thinking about joining the parents he saw in that mirror. The mirror also reveals something crucial about desire itself. Harry becomes obsessed, visiting night after night, neglecting food and friends. Dumbledore warns him that people have wasted away staring into it, dying of starvation while living in dreams. It's a perfect metaphor for how dangerous it is to live in the past or in fantasies about what might have been. But here's what most people miss. The mirror doesn't just show random desires, it shows specifically what you can never have. Ron sees himself as head boy and Quidditch captain, because deep down he believes he'll never stand out from his brothers. Harry sees his parents because they're dead and gone forever. The mirror is crueler than it first appears. Well, the mirror's magic goes deeper than simple wish fulfillment. The inscription around the frame reads, "I show not your face but your heart's desire," but it's written in a coded way that mirrors the backward name. Everything about this object is designed to be deceptive, hidden, requiring close attention to understand. And the weird part is how the mirror connects to the Resurrection Stone later in the series. Both magical objects promise to reunite people with lost loved ones. Both are ultimately hollow promises. The mirror shows images that can never be real. The stone brings back echoes that aren't truly alive. Harry has to resist both temptations to grow into the hero the wizarding world needs. The scene also works as a perfect character test for viewers. Kids watching see a magical mirror that shows cool stuff. Adults recognize the deeper themes about grief, acceptance, and the danger of living in the past. It's storytelling that works on multiple levels simultaneously. Let's not forget that Dumbledore moves the mirror. After catching Harry with it multiple times, he doesn't destroy it, he relocates it. This suggests the mirror serves other purposes, perhaps helping other students work through their own desires and disappointments. It's a tool for understanding people, not just entertaining them. The The mirror's first appearance establishes a pattern that runs through the entire series. The most dangerous magic isn't violent spells or dark curses, it's the magic that preys on human emotions. The mirror, the diary that responds to your thoughts, the locket that amplifies your fears. These objects are dangerous because they feel helpful and comforting. What's brilliant about this early introduction is how it teaches Harry and viewers to be suspicious of magic that seems too good to be true. The mirror offers everything Harry wants most, but Dumbledore makes clear that getting everything you want isn't actually good for you. Sometimes the kindest thing someone can do is take away your dreams. The Mirror of Eris's sets up expectations about how magic works in this world. It's complicated, often disappointing, and usually comes with unexpected costs. But speaking of unexpected costs, wait until you discover the hidden meaning behind another Patronus that appears much later in the series. Love stories in the Harry Potter universe don't always come with grand gestures or obvious declarations. Sometimes they're hidden in the smallest magical details, waiting for fans to piece together the heartbreak. Snape's Silver Doe Patronus represents one of the most devastating love stories ever told on screen, and most viewers miss its significance entirely. The doe first appears in Deathly Hallows, leading Harry through the forest to Gryffindor's sword. It's beautiful, ethereal, and completely mysterious. Harry follows it without question, trusting this silver guide to help him in his darkest hour. But here's what makes this moment absolutely crushing. That doe belongs to Severus Snape. When Snape finally reveals his Patronus to Dumbledore, the impact hits like a lightning bolt. His Patronus matches Lily Potter's exactly, not similar, not related, identical. A doe, just like the woman he loved his entire life. This isn't coincidence or magical accident. It's the physical manifestation of a love so deep, it literally shaped his soul. Think about what Patronuses represent in the wizarding world. They're pure happiness given form, your most joyful memory turned into protective magic. For most wizards, their Patronus reflects their personality or connects to something meaningful in their life. James Potter's was a stag, because he was bold and proud. But Snape's Patronus became a doe, because his greatest source of joy, his most powerful memory, was always Lily Evans. The tragic beauty runs deeper than most fans realize. Patronuses can change when someone experiences profound emotional shifts. Tonks's Patronus changed to match Lupin's wolf when she fell in love with him, but Snape's never wavered. From his school days until his death, his Patronus remained a doe, proving his love for Lily never diminished, never changed, never moved on. Here's the part that'll break your heart completely. Snape spent years protecting Harry, and when Harry needed help most desperately, Snape's Patronus guided him to safety. The doe that represented his love for Lily literally saved her son's life. Harry followed his mother's Patronus without knowing it, led to salvation by the very love that had protected him since birth. The filmmakers planted visual clues throughout the earlier movies for eagle-eyed viewers. Watch Snape's scenes again, knowing what you know now. His reactions to anything involving Lily take on completely different meanings. When he holds her dead body in his arms, when he looks at Harry's green eyes, Lily's eyes, when he agrees to protect the boy, every moment becomes a masterclass in unrequited love. But wait, there's more layers to this magical connection. The doe doesn't just represent Snape's feelings, it shows how Patronuses work as expressions of pure love. James's stag would chase Lily's doe playfully around the common room, a magical courtship dance. After Lily's death, Snape's Patronus became the doe, as if he was trying to keep that part of her alive forever. The silver doe scene gains extra emotional weight when you understand Snape cast it knowing he might never see Harry again. He was sending his most precious memory, his deepest love, to protect the son of the woman he couldn't save. The Patronus carried decades of regret, love and redemption across that snowy forest. What makes this detail absolutely brilliant is how it reframes everything. Harry thinks he's being guided by some unknown protector, maybe even his father's spirit. Instead, he's being saved by the man he considers his enemy, motivated by a love story that predates Harry's existence. The irony cuts deep. Harry's greatest protector was someone he never knew was protecting him. The doe also explains why Snape could produce such a powerful Patronus in the first place. These spells require intense positive emotion, and Snape seemed incapable of happiness. But his love for Lily was so strong, it could generate protective magic even in his darkest moments. That's not just romantic, that's the kind of love that literally changes the fabric of reality. Even the timing matters. The doe appears when Harry feels most alone, most abandoned by the wizarding world. He's lost his wand, He's fighting with his best friends, and he's desperate for guidance. The doe provides exactly what Harry's mother would have given him: unconditional love and protection, even from beyond the grave. This connection between Patronuses and love becomes even more significant when you consider what comes next. Harry will soon learn that Love Mythes, his mother's love, has been protecting him all along, woven into his very skin by her sacrifice. The silver doe was just another manifestation of that same protective force. The revelation transforms every previous scene between Harry and Snape into something completely different, setting up the ultimate truth about the man who seemed to hate him most. Every magical challenge needs a hint. The filmmakers understood this perfectly when they designed the flying keys sequence in Philosopher's Stone. What looks like an impossible puzzle actually contains the most obvious clue imaginable. Picture hundreds of keys fluttering around the chamber like metallic butterflies. They're all different sizes, shapes, and ages. Some are brass, others silver, a few completely tarnished with time. The trio needs to catch exactly one key out of this swirling chaos to unlock the door protecting the Philosopher's Stone. The odds seem impossible. Then there's the brilliant detail most viewers miss on first watch. One key stands out immediately once you know what to look for. It has a damaged wing, not just slightly bent or a little crooked, properly broken, making it fly differently from all the others. This injured key limps through the air while its companions soar gracefully. The filmmakers could have made this puzzle genuinely difficult. They could have hidden the correct key among dozens of identical ones. Instead, they gave Harry and his friends exactly what they needed to spot it. But here's where it gets clever. The broken wing isn't just a helpful hint, it's a metaphor for Harry himself. Throughout the series, Harry succeeds not because he's perfect, but because his flaws and scars make him unique. The key that unlocks the next challenge is literally the damaged one, just like Harry is the chosen one precisely because of his lightning bolt scar. The sequence also reveals something fascinating about the magical protections around the stone. Each professor designed their challenge with a specific purpose. Quirrell's troll was meant to be brutally difficult. Snape's potions riddle required pure logic and intelligence. McGonagall's chess game demanded strategy and sacrifice. Flitwick's flying keys, they were designed to be solvable. The broken wing isn't an accident or oversight. It's intentional. Flitwick, the charms professor, knew that the right person would notice the obvious clue. He built mercy into his magical protection. This connects to a larger theme about Hogwarts itself. The school doesn't just test students, it teaches them. Even the deadly obstacles protecting the Philosopher's Stone contain lessons. Harry learns to look for what makes something different, not what makes it perfect. The scene becomes even more meaningful when you consider the alternatives. Hermione suggests using a summoning charm, but that might have brought dozens of keys at once. Ron thinks about stunning them all, which could have broken the magical lock entirely. Harry's approach, carefully observing and identifying the right target, proves most effective. There's also a delightful irony in the execution. Harry, who's terrible at noticing details in potions class, becomes incredibly observant when it matters most. He spots the broken wing faster than Hermione, the brightest witch of her age. Sometimes practical intelligence trumps book learning. The broken key detail also sets up a pattern that continues throughout the series. Voldemort consistently overlooks the power of imperfection. He splits his soul to achieve immortality, not understanding that wholeness might be more valuable than perfection. He dismisses Harry as weak because of his emotional attachments, missing that those connections are actually strengths. Even the visual choreography supports this theme. When Harry mounts his broomstick to chase the keys, he doesn't go for the flashiest or fastest flying ones. He targets the struggling, damaged key that's clearly trying its best despite being broken. It's a perfect metaphor for choosing compassion over cruelty. The sequence gains extra layers when you realize how it foreshadows later plot points. Harry will spend the entire series being underestimated because people see his vulnerabilities as weaknesses. The broken winged key is the first of many times that being different, even damaged, becomes an advantage rather than a liability. Let's not forget the practical filmmaking genius here. The audience needs to follow Harry's logic in real time. Making the correct key obviously different ensures viewers can solve the puzzle alongside the characters. It creates a satisfying aha moment without making anyone feel stupid for missing subtle clues. The flying keys chamber also demonstrates the collaborative nature of the trio's friendship. Harry provides the flying skills, Hermione offers strategic thinking, and Ron contributes moral support. None of them could have succeeded alone, but together they make the impossible look easy. When Harry finally catches the broken winged key, it stops struggling in his hand. There's something almost grateful about its stillness, as if it wanted to be caught by someone who understood what it meant to be different. The key doesn't fight its capture, it accepts its purpose. This small detail perfectly captures the heart of the entire Harry Potter series. Sometimes the thing that makes you different is exactly what makes you special, and sometimes the most obvious answer is hiding right in front of you, waiting for someone brave enough to reach for it. Speaking of hidden answers, the next magical mystery involves a map that reveals secrets its creators never intended anyone to discover. 4 teenage boys sitting in detention, plotting their next prank. That's how the most famous magical map in wizarding history was born. The Marauders map wasn't just some random magical artifact. It was created by James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew during their time at Hogwarts. Their code names appear right on the parchment: Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. But here's what makes this connection so brilliant. When Harry first uses the map in Prisoner of Azkaban, he has no clue he's holding his father's greatest creation. The irony hits you like a bludger to the face. Harry spends the entire movie using this map to sneak around Hogwarts, just like his dad did decades before. Like father, like son, right? The nicknames tell their own story too. Moony refers to Remus Lupin's werewolf transformations during full moons. Wormtail matches Peter Pettigrew's rat animagus form, the same form he uses to hide for 12 years. Padfoot represents Sirius Black's massive black dog transformation, and Prongs, that's James Potter's stag Patronus, the same one Harry later conjures. Then there's the map's impossible knowledge of Hogwarts. This thing knows every secret passage, every hidden room, every moving staircase. It tracks every person in the castle in real time, showing their exact location and movements. The Marauders spent 7 years at Hogwarts, mapping every inch of the place. They weren't just students, they were magical cartographers with a serious case of wanderlust. The weird part is how the map actually works. It doesn't just show rooms and corridors, it reveals people's real identities even when they're disguised or transformed. Remember when the map shows Peter Pettigrew in Ron's dormitory? That's because magical disguises can't fool the Marauders' enchantments. They built this thing to see through every trick in the book. Let's not forget the map's personality. When Snape tries to force it to reveal its secrets, the map basically insults him. Mr. Prongs agrees with Mr. Moony, and would like to add that Professor Snape is an ugly git. The map inherited the Marauders' sense of humor, and their particular dislike of Severus Snape, even as a magical object. It holds grudges. The timing of Harry receiving the map makes it even more meaningful. Fred and George Weasley had been using it for years, but they give it to Harry during his 3rd year, the same year he meets Sirius Black and learns the truth about his parents' friends. Harry doesn't just inherit his father's eyes and hair, he gets his father's mischievous spirit and his tools for making trouble. Here's something most people miss: the map was basically the original social media platform for Hogwarts. The Marauders could track anyone, anytime, anywhere in the castle. They knew who was sneaking out after curfew, which couples were meeting in secret, and when teachers left their posts. It was the ultimate gossip network disguised as a prank tool. The map's creation also explains why the 4 friends were so good at avoiding capture during their school years. They literally wrote the book on Hogwarts' secret passages and hiding spots. While other students got caught breaking rules, the Marauders had a live updating cheat sheet for avoiding teachers and prefects. But the darkest aspect of the map's story is how it connects to betrayal. Peter Pettigrew helped create this masterpiece of magical engineering, then spent over a decade hiding as a rat. The same magic that once brought the friends together in mischief later revealed Peter's treachery when his name appeared on the map in his rat form. The map serves another purpose too. It's Harry's connection to his father's legacy beyond just Quidditch talent and sacrifice. James Potter wasn't just the hero who died protecting his family. He was a brilliant, mischievous teenager who loved exploring every corner of his school. The map proves that Harry inherited more than his father's appearance and noble heart. He got James's curiosity and rule-breaking tendencies too. Even the map's final fate connects multiple storylines. Harry eventually passes it on, just like Fred and George passed it to him. The cycle continues as new generations of rule-breakers inherit the Marauders' greatest achievement. The map becomes a bridge between past and future troublemakers at Hogwarts. Most viewers completely miss another detail hidden right in plain sight during the films. But this next Easter egg involves something even more sneaky, an object that appears broken in one movie but becomes absolutely crucial to the plot several films later. Here's something that'll blow your mind about the Harry Potter movies. There's a broken cabinet sitting in a corner during Chamber of Secrets that most people completely ignore. Why would anyone care about some dusty old furniture, right? Well, that seemingly random piece of junk becomes the key to one of the most dangerous plots in the entire series. The vanishing cabinet first shows up when Harry hides inside Borgin and Burke's in Chamber of Secrets. It's just sitting there looking abandoned and forgotten. Then, later in the same movie, nearly headless Nick convinces Peeves to drop this exact cabinet right above Filch's office. The crash is loud, Filch gets distracted, and Harry escapes trouble. Most viewers think it's just a funny moment with some slapstick comedy, but here's where it gets crazy. That same cabinet, now properly broken from Peeves dropping it, sits forgotten in the room of requirement for years. Students probably walked past it thousands of times without giving it a second thought. The weird part is that this random piece of furniture was quietly waiting to become the most important object in Half-Blood Prince. Fast forward to Draco's 6th year, and suddenly this broken cabinet becomes his obsession. He spends the entire year trying to fix it, working alone in the room of requirement. Most students think he's just being his usual mysterious self. Even Harry can't figure out what Draco's up to, which drives him absolutely nuts throughout the movie. The cabinet's secret is brilliant in its simplicity. It's actually one half of a pair of vanishing cabinets that work like magical telephones. Step into one, and you'll instantly appear in the other. The matching cabinet sits in Borgin and Burke's, which means anyone who uses it can travel directly from Nocturne Alley into Hogwarts. No barriers, no security, no protection spells can stop it. Draco figures this out because he remembers seeing both cabinets during his visits to the dark arts shop with his father. While other students are worried about homework and Quidditch matches, he's solving one of the biggest security puzzles in wizarding history. The kid who everyone thinks is just a spoiled brat actually outsmarts the most protected school in Britain. The connection between the two movies is so subtle that most people miss it completely on their first watch. You have to remember a random cabinet from 4 years earlier and connect it to Draco's mysterious behavior. Even then, the movies don't spell it out for you. They trust viewers to put the pieces together themselves. What makes this even more impressive is how the filmmakers planted this detail so early. When they were making Chamber of Secrets, they already knew this cabinet would become crucial later. That's some serious long-term planning. They could have easily introduced the cabinet in Half-Blood Prince and just said it was always there, but instead they chose to create this amazing callback. The cabinet also shows how different characters can use the same object for completely different purposes. Peeves uses it as a weapon to create chaos. Students probably saw it as just another piece of junk cluttering up the room of requirement. But Draco sees it as the solution to an impossible problem. One person's trash becomes another person's secret weapon. Then there's the fact that this whole plot succeeds because of a prank. If Peeves hadn't dropped the cabinet to help Harry, it might never have ended up in the room of requirement. Nick was trying to do Harry a favor, but accidentally created the perfect hiding spot for Draco's plan years later. Sometimes helping someone can have consequences you never expected. The cabinet represents something darker about how evil spreads. Voldemort's followers don't need to break down the front door or fight their way past protective spells. They just need to find the one tiny crack in the armor that everyone else missed. The most secure place in the wizarding world gets breached because of a piece of furniture that's been sitting there in plain sight. What's really clever is how this connects to the bigger theme of the series. Objects that seem harmless or broken often turn out to be the most dangerous things of all. A diary, a locket, a ring, they all look innocent until you discover what they really are. The vanishing cabinet fits perfectly into this pattern. This detail proves that the Harry Potter movies reward viewers who pay attention to everything, not just the main plot. Background objects, throwaway lines and random moments all connect in ways that become clear much later. The cabinet shows that in the wizarding world, nothing is ever really forgotten or truly broken. It's just waiting for the right person to find it. Speaking of objects hiding in plain sight, there's another item that appears throughout the series with powers that most viewers never fully understand. The Resurrection Stone doesn't work the way most people think it does. Harry discovers this the hard way in the Forbidden Forest, clutching one of the most powerful magical objects ever created. The stone can bring back the dead, but here's the twist. They're not really alive again. When Harry turns the stone 3 times, his parents appear alongside Sirius and Lupin. But look closely at how they're described and shown. They're translucent, almost ghostly. James Potter tells Harry they're part of you invisible to the eye, but felt by the heart. That's not resurrection magic. That's something entirely different. The stone creates echoes of the people Harry loved most. These aren't zombies or reanimated corpses. They're not even proper ghosts like nearly headless Nick. They're more like magical memories given temporary form, powered by Harry's love and grief. The real magic isn't in bringing back the dead. It's in giving Harry exactly what he needs to face his own death. Think about what each person tells him. His mother says she's proud of him. His father promises they'll stay close. Sirius calls him brave. Lupin apologizes for leaving his own son behind. Every word is designed to give Harry courage for what comes next. The stone somehow knows exactly what Harry's heart needs to hear. But here's where it gets really interesting. The stone doesn't just show Harry random versions of these people. It shows them as he remembers them at their best. James is the loving father Harry never got to know. Lily is the protective mother who died for him. Sirius is the devoted godfather, not the broken man from Azkaban. Lupin is wise and gentle, not struggling with his werewolf curse. The weird part is how the stone chooses who appears. Harry doesn't consciously decide who to bring back. He's thinking about facing Voldemort alone, and the stone responds by showing him the people who would want to walk with him into danger. It's like the stone reads his deepest emotional needs, not just his surface thoughts. Then there's the question of why this Hallow works so differently from the others. The Elder Wand amplifies magical power in straightforward ways. The invisibility cloak simply hides the wearer, but the Resurrection Stone operates on pure emotion. It can't function without love, grief, and genuine need. Someone using it selfishly or casually probably wouldn't see anything at all. The stone's limitations become clear when you realize what it can't do. It can't bring back someone Harry didn't truly know or love. It can't make the dead stay permanently. Most importantly, it can't change the past or undo death itself. The figures fade away once Harry drops the stone, returning to whatever realm they came from. What makes this even more fascinating is how the stone affects Harry differently than it affected others. The Peverell brother who first owned it was driven mad by trying to truly resurrect his lost love, but Harry uses it once, gets what he needs, and then deliberately drops it in the forest. He understands instinctively that holding on to the dead prevents you from living. Let's not forget the stone's physical journey through the story. It was hidden inside the golden snitch that Dumbledore left Harry. The snitch only opens when Harry is about to die, revealing the stone at the exact moment he needs it most. Dumbledore planned this perfectly, knowing Harry would need to say goodbye to his loved ones before making the ultimate sacrifice. The inscription on the snitch reads, "I open at the close." Most fans assume this means the close of Harry's life, but it might also mean the close of his connection to the living world. By the time the stone reveals itself, Harry has already decided to die for others. He's closing one chapter to open another. After Harry survives Voldemort's killing curse, he never goes back to look for the stone. He could probably find it if he tried, but he doesn't want to. The stone served its purpose by giving him courage when he needed it most. Trying to use it again would miss the point entirely. The stone teaches Harry that death isn't the enemy, being forgotten is. The people who love us never really leave, as long as we carry them in our hearts. The stone just makes that truth visible for a few precious moments. This Hallow represents the most human response to death, the desperate wish to see our loved ones one more time. But it also shows the healthiest response, learning to let go while keeping their love alive within us.